Hey everyone, you're listening to the official podcast of 4playernetwork.com. Check us out at that address for everything you need to know about our community, monthly giveaways, and nightly live streams. You can even support us on Patreon at patreon.com/4player. And last but not least, you can catch the live recordings of these podcasts every single Thursday night on our Twitch channel. We hope to see you there. Enjoy. Hey everyone, welcome to 4Player Podcast. This is episode 727, and it is August 3rd, 2022. My name is Nick Henderson, and I'm joined tonight by Bradley Simons.
Hello.
That's it?
What do you want me to say, Nick? I'm happy to be here.
You have such energy and passion during the show, but like
not
when it
during
comes to
greetings.
But you should just get that, just get that energy.
I heard a rumor
I have
one
no
time
passion for small talk.
I heard a rumor one time that Brad's actual first name is Brad, not Bradley. Is that? Can we confirm or deny that rumor here?
That is a fact.
Yeah,
I've seen his
it's not Bradley. People just use it to demean me.
Kind of like I just did. All right,
maybe he'd be more energetic if you didn't demean him all the time, Nick.
Yeah, Nick.
Is that what I've been doing wrong all these years?
Nicky boy.
Nick the bully.
I'm not a bully. Let's just get to this introduction. Nolan's here as well. Hello, Nolan.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? We got a great podcast in store for you tonight. I hope you're ready for it.
See, that's all I asked for. Christopher Davis.
Now that is energy.
Wow, that was actually borderline creepy. And joining us, who did that? Did Nolan just ghosted us on this? we were in a podcast.
Oh, wow.
Nolan's just gone.
On the rails. All right, let's go.
We're getting it back on the rails. Also, want to introduce, of course, Ed. It's been a while since he's been on the show, but glad to have you here. How are you?
Who interrupted almost every single introduction so far. So let's get going.
It was almost like not a surprise that you're here. So for the audio listeners at home, welcome to the show, everybody. Video games. That's what we're here to talk about. I don't have a lot of housekeeping this week. I can tell you that next week I think we're going to do a top 3 podcast. I just want to get that off my chest. I don't know what the topic's going to be. Brad, do you have any ideas?
I thought we were like
we were talking about RPG.
I thought we had nailed one
or,
down.
Or RPG
the best RPG parties. I think it was.
Yeah, which
is sort of a stolen topic.
Well, of course. I mean, dude, of all the top 5s that we've ever did, you think none of our topics were stolen? Pretty sure.
Yeah, but this is literally. I heard another podcast do this one recently.
Well, we haven't done it yet, so you know what?
That's true.
Consider it a work in progress.
Top 3 stolen topics.
Great. Good job, Nolan. Good job.
We need to do a top 3 for every topic, so you're actually doing a top 9.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's accurate. Okay.
3 times 3.
Fucking. That's all. That's all I really got. It's been a slow news week. Don't have a lot of news this week, but luckily, it's been a while since Ed's been on the show, so we're going to catch up with him here in a second, hear about all the stuff he's been playing. We're going to talk about Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I think some of us here are playing that, and we're all pretty... I mean, it's like a 150-hour game, so yeah, we're all pretty damn early, but especially given that fact, we're very, very, very early in it, but I think we've played enough to talk about it. We're going to talk a little bit about the Mortuary Assistant, and now Brad has a buddy in Ed, so they can talk, they can wax philosophical about Symphony of War, the Nephilim Saga.
Oh,
Great name.
I gasped when I saw that he had played it on the one other person on my Steam friends list had played this game.
He gasped audibly, yeah. Real quick, let's catch up with Ed. Like I said, you don't have to go into, I mean, it's been a while, so you don't have to go into great detail about everything that you've played, but you've probably played a lot. So what's been up?
I thought the whole point of this was so that I filled the entire podcast with me talking about the games that I played.
Like I said, the docket's pretty slim.
Yeah.
So
that was the
if you want to just go ahead and do the first segment, we can just sit back and relax.
All right, great. So welcome to the Edcast, everyone. My name is Ed. I am your host this evening. I'm here to tell you that I finally finished Elden Ring. It was 150 hours of time.
Nice.
I beat Melania. I got all the achievements, and so I'm basically done with that game for the rest of my life forever.
What was your build?
Until the DLC.
Double swords, blood. Basically, I got the Falcons or whatever pretty
Gotcha.
soon early in the game. So I had 2 Falcons with Blood on one and Keen on the other. So lots
Pretty rad.
of it's fun. It was fun. It was fun. But I never want to play it ever again. Like I have
Really?
no desire. I have a pretty high desire to go back and play Bloodborne or Sekiro right now. And maybe it's like recency bias, right? Like I just played 150 hours of it. But like
Yeah, I was gonna say
what
that
it is.
just the fact that the game goes on for so long, I think
I
is kind of what
know.
gets. I don't want to say that like it makes you not like it. I think it's more so that it's just you're just kind of like, okay, I get it. It's fun. It's hard. Get to the end.
So she
Like,
said.
I think that's
Nailed
true.
it. Nailed it. Sorry.
Yeah, the big backlash for Elden Ring is this is not as replayable as the other ones. Yeah, it's 150 hours long. Of course, it's not as replayable.
It's also one of those games where it's like, come back in 5 years and play it again and tell me like you remember everything that you did and it doesn't feel kind of exciting. But like I felt the exact same way when I finished Sekiro, and that's because I stretched that game out for like 9 months of my life probably. So I had that immediate reaction of, man, fuck this game. I loved it, but fuck this game. I'm never coming back. But now I'm like, I can play Sekiro. I'm not going to, but I could.
Yeah, I had a similar reaction with Sekiro too, because I played that like 2.5 times or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I'm glad I experienced Elden Ring. Let me put it that way. I'm very happy that's a game that I was able to play and liked playing.
Robin beat that game 3 times. Of course. I mean but that was also a total of about like 160 hours. So
you're talking about Elden Ring.
Yes. Subsequent playthroughs of Elden Ring are a lot shorter because you don't need to go into all the. I mean, it's a new game plus. You don't need to go into all the dungeons to get all the shit again. You have it.
Right. That's a good point. I picked up that Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin game. It is the perfect game to play to turn off your brain too. Like I just when the cutscenes come on, I just sit back and relax and watch the chaos happen like all the time. It's great. It's great. So that's what I'm playing with it. I'm having fun with it. And the combat system is actually like fairly cool. And there's like a class system in there where you're like switching classes depending on what weapon you wield, and there's some depth there to the systems that is interesting. And it looks beautiful. It's reminds me of like the like very realistic graphics of like Final Fantasy 15 and like the later Final Fantasy games, like Final Fantasy 7 remake. Like it's a beautiful game. So definitely
they just couldn't get those characters to look.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think the biggest mistake the reason why I'm still kind of like in on the game is because, and this is probably more of a nitpick, but like you have 4 characters in your party, but you can only play 3 of them at once. I guess for like balance reasons, but it's like
basically just picking the one character you don't want. Like
it's super bizarre. And so you start off with 3 characters. And so basically, like now, I just feel like I'm just gonna use those 3 characters the whole time, and the last one is just kind of like my girl or whatever. Girl.
Like, you never bring them out of retirement.
How dare you?
So yeah, and then like I said, after Elden Ring, I kind of wanted to turn my brain off a lot, so I played through Hard Space Shipbreaker. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this game. With this game, so basically, like you're in space and you control in 6 degrees of freedom, right? And your job is to break down ships into various different parts and put them into like either the recycler or the furnace or the barge. And so it's a super zen game. And most of the time you don't even there's like a little bit of music kind of in the background, but like it was a really good game to like listen to a podcast too, like during or whatever, where you're just kind of chilling and like
mantling ships.
Yeah, and it was like, so it was a 25-hour game, and I was just dismantling ships the whole time. I don't remember how many total ships I did or whatever. I think it told me like at the end maybe like 100 or something like that. But like, just again, sit back, relax, just tear apart ships, blow up ships. You get more and more dangerous as you get more and more experience. So like your reactors can start to blow up if you don't dismantle them correctly. You have to worry about pressure, the pressurization of the different compartments, so that you have to find the right place to put these charges so that when you blow up the ship and it decompresses, you don't like lose a bunch of shit flying around from the like massive decompression.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
so yeah, it's pretty fun. And there's a little bit of a story there where you're like kind of under the thumb of this big corporation, and they're like
capitalism.
very anti-union and stuff like that. And so the story's kind of neat. It's not like the deepest story that I've ever experienced. Right. But
I totally
I
totally understand the impulse to want to play something that is like tonally and structurally just the complete opposite of Elden Ring after playing a game like that. Like the first game I played right after that was Superland
6 feet under
or
Crash.
6 inches under. Yeah, 6
inches.
Just total, just the chillest, most happiest, just vibing game. So yeah, but like just needed something complete opposite end of the spectrum.
Yeah, so that's like a actually a fairly good transition to shortly after I finished Hard Space Shipbreaker, I got my Steam Deck.
Oh, hooray!
Yeah.
So apparently everybody who was on the list now, if they haven't received their Steam Deck, they're saying like, everybody will get them by the end of the year.
It's been accelerated for sure. So quick review. I love it. I actually think it's one of the coolest pieces of hardware that I've ever interacted with.
I'm in that boat too, Ed.
The battery life obviously sucks, but it really, really heavily depends on the game that you're playing, whether you have it capped to 40 FPS and like how high the brightness is. Because I tried to play Dark Souls remastered on here for the first time playing Dark Souls, and the battery life like drains in like an hour, right? But I was able to get like 6 solid hours out of Symphony of War in comparison. So it really depends on the type of game you're playing.
I knocked the hardware based, because you can obviously tweak the frame rate in the game, but you can also tweak the frame rate, like the cap on the actual hardware. And I knocked it down from 60 to 30, and that doubled my battery life for almost everything that I was playing. Honestly, at that point, although not a lot of what I've played so far has been like super and like
and that was the thing. I had it set to 40, and then I've tried to play Dark Souls, and I was having a little bit of input lag and stuff like that, so I had to knock it back up to 60, which is why it drained the battery. Probably worse, even worse. But I've been playing. I played Rogue Legacy 2 on here. Great game. Very, very appropriate for this. I played Symphony of War, as we'll talk about a little bit later. And I have like Superland installed on here, Tunic installed on here. So I mean, like with how much I've been traveling lately, it's going to be a godsend for doing that. And finally, like I spent a lot of time. Like Katie will go to bed. I'll get bed with her, and I'll stay up and play video games or whatever. And for a long time, that was my Switch. That was when I would play my Switch games, or when I was traveling, I'd play my Switch games. But now I can play my computer from here, from the bed or whatever. That's super cool. I love it. And I've installed like emulators and stuff on here. And like if you go to the like non-Steam section of my Steam Deck, you can see like Advance Wars, 007 GoldenEye, Banjo-Kazooie. So like it's all in the Steam interface, which is super cool. What's up, Nolan?
I don't have a Steam Deck, but I do know that it has a lot of capabilities of like customizing and stuff like that. Yeah, I do have one pre-ordered. My question was, and I'm assuming the answer is yes, but just to confirm, like Steam, like Workshop type stuff works on it, right? Like it's just like playing it on a PC. Like mods.
I think so. It's just installing it, just like because I think all it is, it's like a another interface on top of big picture mode, kind of.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, and like you can switch to the desktop mode, but I haven't launched a game from the desktop mode. It's pretty much I go into the Steam client and launch it from there. So like I don't have an actual real answer for you to like say like yes, it works 100% for sure. But as far as I'm aware,
I'm pretty sure he's accurate on that.
Yeah, and like installing mods and stuff like that through Steam Workshop, I think should work just fine.
Yeah.
Also, non-Steam Workshop mods as well, but you're gonna have to fuck with
dude, fucking horseshit. My original reservation date was Q3 October, and now it's Q4 October to December.
Uh
Fucking horseshit. Cancel reservation.
They moved you back. They moved you back, but then guaranteed you'll get it before the end of the year. Like, according to them, you'll get it before the end of the year.
And like
maybe sooner.
The whole like process of getting the Steam Deck was like once they sent me the email and I paid for it. For one thing, I paid for it during the Steam Summer Sale, so I got like 60 new trading cards at once, which was interesting. But once I paid for it, I got a shipping notification. That was like June 30th, so right before like the July 4th weekend. I got a shipping notification that Sunday, so like July 3rd, and then I had it in my hands July 5th or July 6th. Maybe.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it's pretty quick.
I think it's probably one of those things where they send you the, hey, are you sure you still want to buy it because we have one for you? Like when they actually have one like ready to go.
Yeah, in stock in the shipping center.
Just some guy sitting there with a shipping label, just waiting, just like watching the queue, just like, you want this?
Do you want it? I got the shipping label. It's about to be slapped on the box for you.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I mean. Obviously a great piece of hardware. I'm going to enjoy it for a very long time. I
feel very weird taking my Switch to work now. Like I've been carrying my Switch around for Xenoblade, and I still really like the OLED Switch, but man, it feels totally different. Like it feels so much smaller.
Okay, so can we get Nintendo to agree that the accept button should be on the south? And the back button should be on the east side, because Steam Deck's like that now. Xbox controllers, PlayStation controllers are like that, and Nintendo is the one holdout. And it's so annoying now going from like mentally reminding myself that I'm switching from the Steam Deck to the Switch.
Everything used to be like that, out of Japan. And I think even honestly in Japan, a lot of the time, that's still the right button is the accept button, like the confirm. And even like the original PlayStation was like that. But it wasn't until like it got so big in America, and then for some reason they decided to switch it. Then they started switching it for everything.
I think it was like
really
Xbox,
fucked up,
right?
though? What's really fucked up is that the A and the B are swapped, obviously, right? So like on a Switch, the A is on the right, and on a Steam Deck or an Xbox, it's but it's made it really hard to talk about like Monster Hunter controls, because a lot of people are playing Sunbreak on the Switch and a lot of people are playing it on like a Steam Deck or whatever. So it's so hard to say what you're trying to do, because you can't just say, right trigger plus A. So I've defaulted to just using I've defaulted to using PlayStation controls, because PlayStation controls are understood universally. But you got to say cross instead of X, because if you start saying X, it confuses people.
I obviously have been playing Xenoblade. We can talk about that in a second. I did want to mention that I did play the demo for Fire Emblem Three Hopes, the Warriors game for it. I'm not sure I want to get it. It seems cool, like they got a cool class system, but it doesn't quite like. I guess people like maybe I played my one Fire Emblem or my one Warriors clone with Cadence of, or not Cadence of Hyrule, but the Hyrule Warriors one.
Calamity,
and Age of Calamity, and like I think I'm good. I think I'm good on Muso games. I think I've got my fix.
I could totally see that.
If you really like the Three Houses story, I hear that it might be worth it.
Yeah,
which I know
it's
you
set
do,
in an alternate universe or whatever. So like,
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe it's worth
a big
it. Maybe
Three Houses guy.
If you like those characters, I hear it's worth it. A lot of people play those games and they don't even care about the gameplay. So
that's true. I mean, the characters, the new character designs that they did for all the characters that you can play from Three Houses is like they're really good. They're cool.
And it's cool to see a voiced Byleth.
Oh.
Yeah. So the character you play a different main character who's also voiced, and one of the characters you run into is Byleth from the Three Houses game.
That's cool. Good voice actors.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. Actually,
the actor's pretty good too.
Cool. All right. Cool beans. Anything else you want to throw out there? Any other quick mentions?
I played The Looker on Steam. It's free.
Nice.
It's a kind of witness parody game.
This looks very familiar.
Yeah, it's like intended to be that, and so like it's pretty fun. It's a fun little romp.
It's free to play, which is the best thing about it. But did you look in the telescope?
Yeah.
That's such a great little bit.
Yeah. So So when you see a telescope, look into it. See what happens.
Mm-hmm.
That means I have to go play the game.
It's free to play, Nick, and it's
free-to-play,
like
Nick.
2
hours
hours
long.
Yeah.
The
You're
Witness
making
was
so
your
much
game of the year,
sense.
Nick.
It was.
Yes, and it is very much like The Witness, and it is very much clever puzzles.
Yeah.
Like it is definitely a parody of The Witness, but for all of that being said, some of the puzzles are pretty clever.
Yeah.
Especially the final puzzle. Final puzzle is the best one.
All right, well now I have to play it because I have no fucking clue what you're talking about, but I love The Witness, so done.
Yeah, so that's about it. Honestly, I've been playing. I played Super Mario Bowser's Fury. Great game. Definitely recommend it to everyone that likes Mario.
That is
looking forward to like the next like Odyssey 2 or whatever thing that they come out with that uses some of those ideas. So
we are overdue, aren't we? Like
it's been 5 years.
What was the gap between
4 years
between Galaxy 2 and
It'll be 5 in October?
Yeah.
We're not used to gaps this long, honestly, for Mario games. It's kind of strange.
Yeah.
It would have been Mario 3D World to Odyssey, right? That was a decently long jump, but Odyssey from Galaxy is like more in the same vibe, you know.
You know what? I'm betting that we'll have a new Mario game. I think I'm guessing. Well, you know, I'm sitting here thinking like maybe Zelda is next year's big Nintendo game, but like it's like Mario makes sense. But
they did both in 2017, right? It was Breath of the Wild in the beginning of the year, and then Odyssey at the end. So
and Xenoblade 2.
Book in the year with some dope ass.
Yeah, that was that year, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh!
All that came out in the first year of the Switch.
It released in December too, so like I didn't finish it until like March that year or something like that.
Well, speaking of Xenoblade,
didn't Nintendo skip an entire generation for 3D open world Mario games? Like there was nothing on the Wii U, was there? Now that I think
it depends. Yeah, it depends on like 3D
no, there
World.
were
like
2D games,
World.
2D playing
but
games.
there was
like 3D World.
3D World was not 2D. It was linear, but it was 3D.
I would say this: you're both accurate because I know what Chris Davis is alluding to. He's obviously alluding to like
I'm thinking about the Mario 64
Sunshine, Galaxy, that style.
Yeah,
and 3D World isn't that, but it's also
not
even 2D.
3D World like, counts. Come on, I mean there was a 2D. There was an actual. There's the new Super Mario Brothers. You
gotta admit when they announced 3D World, when you were looking at them announce 3D World, nobody looked at that and was like, "This is the next iteration. This is the next evolution of like Mario Galaxy." You know what? Like, no, it wasn't. It didn't hit the same. It didn't land the same. You can tell, and that wasn't
because it was like stylistically going from when you went from course to course. It was more like the new Super Mario Brothers U versions.
Great ass video game. All right. Anyways, I'm gonna go back to my original attempted transition. Speaking of Xenoblade, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is out.
Yeah.
I'm playing it. Brad's playing it. Ed's playing it. As far as I know, Nolan is not playing it.
Not right now.
And I know Chris Davis is not playing it. So I'm going to be honest. I guess I'm the furthest in this game. Wasn't expecting that. I don't know. This is my first. I'm in chapter 2. I'm 8 hours in.
So we're probably around the same spot.
Yeah. I'm still being taught tutorials and shit.
That's not going to stop anytime soon.
Yeah,
you'll get that. So rolling.
So this is your first Xenoblade game?
This is my first Xenoblade game, so I don't feel particularly qualified to talk about a lot of the stuff in this.
Sure.
So I don't know where to start.
I mean,
I think you're a good person to start with. How you feeling about it so far?
I'm really enjoying it. I've been kind of unofficially seeking like a JRPG to kind of scratch because when I was first getting into gaming, was around Final Fantasy VII time, and then for like the longest time JRPGs was almost like exclusively what I played. And then it eventually kind of trickled off, and I started to kind of broaden my horizons and try other things, and now it's gotten to over time it's just eventually reached this point where it's like, unless it has Final Fantasy in the title and it's an RPG, I don't really play it. And I've been trying to
look at their track record the past few years, though.
It's true.
Hey, remake was good.
But I've been kind of I've been trying to find a non-Final Fantasy RPG to kind of like let me kind of, because I know I still like them. I'm just not obsessed
You're
with them.
trying to recapture the magic, right?
You've been striking out though in your attempt
I
to,
have been.
to find
Hoping.
JRPGs.
I was really hoping Tales of Arise was gonna kind of be that game. You know, obviously when it comes to JRPGs, I'm always kind of looking for like really interesting looking characters and an interesting world and an interesting story. And I thought Tales of Arise might be that, and it was closer than I was expecting, maybe, but it still kind of fell short, and I dropped off of it. And this game, I honestly didn't plan on playing it, and then I kind of found out by talking to you guys that, you know, the numbered entries in the series don't really have anything to do with each other, so I wasn't missing out on a bunch of shit, so I could just kind of jump in. It's like it's like jumping into a Final Fantasy game.
Yeah, I would say there are some light references that kind of
Right.
hint at maybe some version of a shared universe or whatever, but the stories that they're telling inside the games themselves are completely standalone. And that was definitely the case with X. Even when they changed it to like Chronicles 2, at first I was kind of expecting to see Shulk and stuff like that, but they're completely standalone stories, and they do meet that JRPG desire of like these massive, not just massive worlds, but like big arcs of like story arcs and sometimes there's like political stuff that happens in it like,
I mean, I'm pretty it did not take long for this game's like narrative to kind of suck me in. I'm totally digging it. I'm way more than I was expecting.
Also, it's a huge throwback. The beginning of this game where you get like dropped into a battle, like a battle zone, is a huge throwback to the first game. The first Xenoblade Chronicles game is like you start playing as 3 characters that are in the middle of a battle, and then you it cuts to a little bit later, and you start playing as the main character Shulk after that. So like, and they didn't exactly do this here, but like, but I liked the way they introduced the story by like just dropping you in media res, kind of as well.
And they use that battle also as kind of a really interesting way to kind of establish some of the, you know, the things about this world and about, you know, the political structure and like the roles that these characters play. Like the main character that you play as in this game is a Offseer, who is a warrior that goes into battle, but he's also one of his responsibilities is to play this like magical flute that like that makes people's souls leave their corpses and then go into, I guess they're absorbing them, like they need that like soul energy for something, whatever. So he's like playing them off, you know, like they're dead, and he plays them off at the end of battle.
Musical Shank song, okay.
Yes, a little bit. And I'm still very early, so I'm not really sure what the significance of all that is. But like this whole idea.
Oh, they'll tell you. It's going to be a very long story with lots of twists.
But like that's what I used to live for in RPGs, and I'm really into like the idea that like there's these 2 warring nations, and they literally grow people and then raise them to be warriors, and they have a 10-year lifespan. And at the end of, if they make it to the end of their 10 years, they
put them in like they literally show them putting in like I don't even like gestation tubes, like tanks or whatever, and then they end up being adults, and then they live for 10 years, and it was great. Like I love the moment where they meet Van Damme for the first time, and their like reaction to an old person.
Yeah, they're like, "What's wrong with your skin?"
What's wrong with your skin? It's all
I'm 60 years
Van
old.
Damme is in this.
Yes.
Yeah, Van Damme is or Van Ham or something like that. It's a recurring character in the Xenoblade Chronicles series that like same name, kind of like Sid from Final Fantasy.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Is he a pig person? Please tell me yes.
No, he's just a big dude.
Yeah. He like the other thing to like Brad kind of hinted at it is the other thing to remember about Xenoblade Chronicles games is there will be many twists and turns as you go through the story, and like betrayals and shocking twists and stuff like that. That's what
I know if you like drama.
I love drama.
But
like the kind of the main drama, at least early on in the story, is like there's these 2 warring nations, and there's 3 characters that kind of make up your main party that come from opposing sides, right? They're always fighting each other, but they end up through these circumstances, they end up together. So now you have a party made up of characters that from the outset kind of are born to hate each other, and like that obviously leads to some interesting like character dynamics and interactions and stuff. And like, I'm only like 8 hours in. This is like a 150-hour game, so like, I'm excited at the prospect of like following these characters and seeing all the crazy shit that kind of happens with them. But I will say this: when you start getting into like the mechanics of this game and the combat and stuff, like holy shit!
Yeah.
Here's the thing:
Where do we start?
Monolith Soft, they're out of their fucking minds. They're out of their minds. They don't know when to quit. Like when it comes to like systems and shit, they just throw everything in there, and
so
you
glad
know
to hear you say
it's
that.
cool. There's a lot to like mess with, but like sometimes it's like it feels like a bit much. You know,
Does anybody else
they
just go like? Is it one of those things where they have so many mechanics and so many systems? Like, is it that like 60 hours in, you're just gonna be like, I'm just going into battle and like hitting buttons.
I don't think so.
not
That
really
that was
that,
not the
but-
experience that I had with 2, which was definitely a more like system deep than 1 was. Like you only have like 3 abilities you can use, and then like in 2 you like kind of unlocked the ability to start like chaining different elements together, and then like depending on the order of which you do that and whether you use an opposing element against it, like it got really like strategic in the way you were executing these fights, more so than just like spamming, like hitting a button, waiting for the cooldown, hitting the button, waiting for the cooldown.
When there was like 2 or 3 systems and I could follow them, but now there's like 8, and I'm just like, what's the difference between arts and master arts and like fusion arts and class arts and ranks and levels, and now you can switch the characters' classes, and it switches their clothes with their class, and I'm like,
which is weird, which is really weird, because they didn't have to do that, but it's a choice. It's a choice.
Switch.
Yeah, but the thing about that bothers me is they found those clothes later, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, I'm going to change to your class, and now I get your clothes. But you just found those clothes. Why are they so associated with this class now? It's absurd. But the reason I think Monolith Soft is crazy is because they make these giant RPG worlds, and they know they're on a Switch. They know they're stuck on like underpowered Nintendo hardware, and that's fine, right? But like, why do you have a party of 6 characters? That's like way too many. And you even get like a 7th support character. Why? That's so much. They didn't need that. In fact, I was happier, like, you know, trucking along with the combat system when I was just 3 people. And I was like, there's some cool new stuff. Like, I like the way they have the like the rings on the ground. I don't remember that from previous Xenoblade games. They have like rings on the ground where if you stand in it, it'll boost your attack, or you'll stand in a defensive one and it'll like raise your defense, or a healing one and it'll heal you. And it adds like, you know, beyond the positioning to do various positional types of attacks that some of the characters have. It makes moving around the battlefield feel a little bit more dynamic than some of the other games, where you could it could feel like you were just kind of staring at meters and things fill up, which you do still kind of do that in this game. It's a lot of staring at the UI, sometimes more than the actual battlefield, but at least the rings give you like cool, like more movement options. Like makes you a little bit more aware, have to be aware of what's going on. I also like how one thing that bums me out. I don't understand why they changed this, but I think it was with Xenoblade 2 where they changed it, because Xenoblade 1 was not like this, or X I don't think was like this. You played X, Ed?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay. A little bit later, I'll get into my disappointments about how the series has gone away from X, but regardless, in Xenoblade 1, your character, you've always had this auto attack, right?
Yeah.
And you've always had these positional attacks, like get on the side, get behind him, right? Shulk would be doing that in the first game. But he would attack while he moved. And it felt so much more fluid.
Okay.
And now
Xenoblade
crazy. 2 started it where as soon as you move, you just stop auto attacking, and it feels very clunky. And I don't know why they made that change.
It's because of the attack cancel abilities.
The canceling, it makes sense. So,
like,
I guess
you're moving and then you wait for the attack, and then you press your button right when the attack hits, and then that will like do it'll like flash and do a little bit more damage.
That's another thing I can't quite nail down, because there's so much happening on screen at once. Like, I don't even know where my eyes are supposed to be.
That's the thing. Like, if you're trying to play on this little screen, like, that is way more difficult. Like
tough.
I played the first couple of chapters on a monitor, and like that was fine. But I remember having the same problem in Xenoblade 2, and I played most of Xenoblade 2 on this screen, and
on the handheld.
on the handheld screen. Like
Yeah, the handheld. It's a lot, and it's
I do have a weird thing I want to say about the handheld. And I know
before you do that, real quick, I did want to say that like the 6 character thing in 2, you gain those characters throughout the story, and so it kind of incentivizes you. Okay, I got this new character. Let me switch them in and see how it is. And now you just have 6 characters from the very beginning. So like,
yeah.
It kind of sucks that they didn't like kind of piecemeal this in, but I understand why they did it like story wise. But it kind of sucks.
I miss the days when you slowly, gradually picked up people over the course of like 20 hours.
Yeah, but this is a bit of a different thing, and I get it. But
they're doing something
in terms of the mechanics, the thing that has I just sort of like took a step back and I thought about a combat scenario. I got into like kind of a boss fight, like one of those field bosses, and it was my level, but I still was like eating shit. And this was after the battle system became, you have 6 characters. And I realized like there are so many moving parts and I feel like I have control over so little, especially because unlike other RPGs, you can't just really heal on command, like Xenoblade, like all the Xenoblade games, healing is a little bit more of like this thing that just sort of happens over time. You can't just spam it or whatever, right? So I'm eating shit in this battle and I'm like, well, I'm doing everything right. And I don't really I could switch characters, but everything's kind of moves on like cooldowns and like these slow timer things. And I'm like, I'm just dying because, and I don't even know really what I can do. And I feel like it's because I'm controlling 6 characters now instead of 3. And, you have multiple characters pulling aggro and trying to do different things. And I'm like, I just kind of wish it was a little bit less so I had a little bit more control.
So one of the things that they don't really tell you about that well is that your characters have 3 skills that they can equip, but they have more than 3 skills that they have. And so you can switch those out to make your tank a little bit more tanky versus like doing more damage.
And I do that, and I look at those, but some of them, like I always want to have the ones that cause like the chain status, right? Of like break, and topple and stuff, right? So I have to keep all those on there. On my tanks, I have to keep the ones that draw aggro, and on my healers, I have to keep the ones that heal. And on the character I'm controlling, I need to have like some good positionals. And once I really kind of took a step back and I looked at all those skills, I feel like I didn't have I feel like there wasn't too many smart choices to swap many things out. Maybe there's one character where I'm not using those like main 3 skills or whatever, but the rest I'm like, these are all kind of important, and I feel like I can maybe switch something out, but I'm not really gaining too much of an advantage doing that.
I switched out my tanks. Like he had 2 aggro drawing abilities by default.
Yeah.
And I switched out one of those for the one that makes them a little bit more tanky for a little bit of time. And that made it a lot easier for me to try to fight some of those monsters in the field that are unique or tougher or whatever.
I never had trouble with any of the combat until I got... You have 6 characters now, Ed?
I do. Yeah, just got them, basically, yeah.
Yeah, it just becomes a lot more chaotic, especially when you're fighting multiple hard things.
Sure.
I do want to know what this game looks like 60 hours in versus 8 or 9 hours in, because right now you're choosing between like 4 or 5 abilities that you can tie to like 3 different face buttons or whatever, and it's also weird to me that like you're not changing their equipment. You can assign an accessory, and then when you get to level 30 you can add a second accessory. It's just weird, but like you can't change their weapons, you can't change their like
there are more systems will come, I believe, but it is a little weird to me that you can't change out more equipment. I think they sort of counterbalance that by making the accessories like a lot more effective than you'd expect. Like the numbers on accessories are quite large, right? Meaning that my auto attacks do an extra 70% damage. Well, that's a big number. Usually you don't see that on equipment, but when you have one choice to make, it's a big choice. And I'm glad it's potent, but it's still kind of like one choice. And there's a little bit of like picking maybe some skills that synergize a little bit with certain accessories, but it's not a lot of customization.
I do remember feeling similar to you, Nick, playing 2, where I felt like that there wasn't a lot of depth. I was just waiting for the cooldowns to finish. Like I wasn't doing a lot throughout the combat,
especially with the auto attack on. You're just kind of like waiting for your cooldowns to go down. You're just like, I'm just gonna like keep myself close to the enemy.
I'm just standing here, right? Yeah, and like Brad said, you can't move anymore. Like whereas in one, I definitely like jumped around a lot during just out of idle wanting to do something. But like in later parts of 2, like I said before, like the combat does get pretty interesting. And the systems start to stack on top of each other, so you're actually doing things throughout the whole battle. There's very little downtime where you're not clicking buttons and making decisions and stuff like that. So I have to assume that's going to be the case with this game. It's probably not going to happen until Chapter 3 or Chapter 4 when the combat system really unlocks its depth. But it is a bummer that it just feels so sluggish, the combat at the very beginning of the game.
Like the thing that I'm liking about it, and maybe y'all can speak to this in terms of how this compares to the other games, but like the sense of scale is really cool. Like the world is, just the vistas are like massive, and I really like that. And like it kind of has that like MMO-esque feel, like running out to enemies on the map and just engaging combat seamlessly. I like that a lot.
There's so many enemies in this one. Again, I've played them all, and I think 2 was pretty like enemy dense, but in this one, I feel like every 2 feet is another fucking enemy, and a lot of them are aggro, and it's like fuck. I just want to like get across this field, and it just feels like enemy barf. Like there's no rhyme or reason. They're just fucking everywhere, and I'm like I like the combat system, and it's a nice to look at, but I feel like there's not much identity to some of these locales. They're just kind of there, and there's secrets to find. But
are you guys past like the very like more linear? Like that first chapter was fairly linear. There's that one open area that's like somewhat big, but like is it still pretty?
I mean, the area I'm in right now is I mean, it feels pretty large to me and open, but it's also
it's big, but it's still linear. I mean, the main story is sort of moving you in a direction, and you don't spend too much time in one place, which is, I mean, again, Nolan's played some Xenoblade X. Well, X is like my favorite, and if you're like really into like story and characters, that's probably like the last one you should play. But like that, Monolith Soft makes cool, big, huge, great scale maps, but like Xenoblade X was one like single map, like Breath of the Wild, and like immediately from the beginning, you could run fast, you can jump high, and exploring that world was fun. There was stuff to find out in that world, and then you started to get. It is very much. I mean, Monolith Soft worked with Nintendo to make those. Yeah, we have a delay, but the Monolith Soft works with Nintendo to make the Breath of the Wild maps. That when Breath of the Wild and Breath of the Wild 2, when they say Monolith Soft for support, it's the map design, and that's why like Xenoblade X is so similar to those Breath of the Wild maps, but in Xenoblade X there's a progression to like movement, and as you got further out into the world, as the story dictated, you started to get mechs, and the mechs could transform into vehicles, and eventually you could fly. Oh, you're good. Go ahead. Nolan?
Okay, so I don't know what was going on. But that's kind of what I was getting at, Brad. Is that similar to Breath of the Wild? The farther you get into the game, you get better modes of traversal and faster modes of traversal, and this all of a sudden this big open world becomes still the same size, but it's easier to get around. You know, at first you're just kind of exploring areas right outside that main city, but then you get mechs, and now you can bikes and stuff, and then they can start flying, and then you can get to stuff that's higher up. So similar to Breath of the Wild, the giant world just becomes your oyster, and it's just so
Do we know this
fun
doesn't
explore
have that kind of progression at some point?
I
would
if
imagine
it's anything like 2, I think it doesn't.
It's
like
fundamentally built differently. Like Xenoblade X is, if you think the scale is impressive here, you got to see Xenoblade X. It is completely different. One single fucking map. Here in a trailer, I saw like a boat, but from what I understand, I think you're just running the entire. I don't even know if you get like a higher jump or something. I so desperately want something to shake up the way I move around this world besides fast travel, because like it doesn't feel great, especially when you're trying to just get up a tiny little ledge and you're jumping multiple times and you just can't fucking get up there. When in Xenoblade X you could jump like 30 feet in the air, and it's just I don't understand why can't Xenoblade, these more story focused Xenoblades have that kind of world design? And is it because they're stuck on like a Switch, which is very different than what a Wii U was at the time? I don't know, but I think it might be. I don't necessarily want a sequel to Xenoblade X, but I do want them to make worlds like that again. And it's frustrating because they're doing it for Zelda, but they're not doing it for Xenoblade. And
with that said,
it's a little disappointing.
I don't want it to all seem doom and gloom because and I'm again speaking as someone who's playing this for the first time. I'm pretty like when I walk into a big open space like this, like it's scratching that like you know me. I love open worlds. Like it's scratching that itch, for sure.
There are secrets to
lot better
find,
than
like
Arise.
cool like viewpoints. I don't know if the heart to hearts are back or whatever, but like little spot you get to spots in the previous games where
I think there is something that's similar to a heart to heart. Kind of like somebody was comparing it to the Tales of Arise, like the campfire conversations and stuff.
Right.
I think there's something like that in this game. I just haven't gotten to it.
Yeah, in the previous game, you would like go to areas in the world, and there would be a little thing there. You click A, and then it would start a conversation between two characters in your party. So you get a little bit of a bonding moment between them, and stuff like that. So like if any of that it continues to be in this game, then I think Nick, you're gonna have a great time. I really do.
Yeah. Like I said, a story and characters can kind of make or break this kind of experience for me. And I think so far the characters and the story are kind of hooking me to the point where it's like hopefully this can carry me through to like kind of all the systems and the mechanics settle and then I become more comfortable with them. Because
if you stick
really
with it, you'll probably be pretty happy about that sort of stuff. I will say, and again, I don't mean to be down on the game because I really like Xenoblade games, but there are certain things about each one that I really like, and I'm thinking of like, well, this doesn't really have the world of Xenoblade X, right? Or flying mechs, and that's kind of sort of a bummer. The other thing I'm missing a little bit here, and I know this is sort of just like a taste thing, and some people might see it as a positive. I didn't see it as a positive for Arise, is that this story, this cast, it seems very like serious and dramatic. Like there's not a lot of levity in terms of like personalities or like characters that are, like Xenoblade 2 had like Poppy and the crazy maid robot or whatever, and then it had a Nopon as one of the main characters. So did Xenoblade 1, and I don't think this game has any like Nopon main characters.
So the Nopons are your supporting cast, right? The two like kind of
the little Kate Sith looking things.
And they're usually like comic relief.
And Xenoblade 1's Nopon was like not just it was comic relief, yes, but it was like an incredibly endearing character as well. And I was a little more down on the creepy guy who made a robot a Nopon from 2,
but it was
still
goofy,
fun.
And I want a little goofiness.
Yeah. I will say this, like the things that are kind of like that are catching that I'm really enjoying so far with the character interactions. Like near the beginning, they kind of establish this, these characters are raised to fight and train or whatever. So like they kind of have that like Starship Troopers like shower kind of like scene where they're all just like hanging out naked in the bath, like and nobody thinks anything of it. And then like fast forward a couple hours and he meets this new girl and like they're like, oh, we're gonna change clothes, and like he's all of a sudden he's like super shy and he's like, I'll be over here, and he like and I was like, it seems like there's something there, and they're slowly getting to it, and I have a feeling that stuff will kind of slowly, kind of naturally emerge over time. But you're right. It is a pretty serious tone so far.
So, Nick, I don't think this really matters for you, but I did want to kind of share this. The two different warring factions, you can tell that there are like kind of different races in those warring factions. But in the three that you start at are three races from the first Xenoblade game. And then in the three from the other faction are from the second Xenoblade game.
Okay.
And so like the woman with the little angel wings for the hair, their race is High Intia from the first game.
Such a lazy design though. I wish they had more than Nopons in this game, because like Nopons are the only race in the Xenoblade games that I feel like have any sort of these are really different from humans. And then
I like
the rest of your cast here is just
whatever
kind
his
of
race is. Like I kind of like the aesthetic of
That's the tank
those
in the first one, right?
lands.
Yeah, Lance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
he's like maybe somewhat of a spoiler race from the first game, but
they're still very people looking.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. And I like Uni a lot. Also, guys, I was not expecting the English accents when I started playing this game.
So
I'm totally into it.
They do that. They're doing that for a reason. So when the first Xenoblade game got localized to the US, it actually didn't get localized to the US. We got the PAL version of the game. And so everyone had English accents, and so they've just maintained that throughout the series.
Oh, okay.
As a way of
such a funny thing.
Continuity.
I totally dig it. I'm really.
I mean, it's
enjoying
great.
It.
Yeah, I mean, like that, like, but yeah.
Except there's one character who does not, who has like an American accent all the way, but like everybody else,
I'm like,
that was funny.
And they do this at the previous games, and it's fine. But like the commentary during battle, there's not enough of it. They'll say the same thing over and over again, or like there's like 3 different things that they say whenever you finish a battle, and you're you're fighting people all the time, and so every time you finish the battle, it's like, oh well, we could go on more, and then 3 battles later, oh well, we can go on more. Like,
dude, I'm gonna be honest,
dude.
I get.
Look,
hey,
they've improved in Xenoblade 1. They would anytime your character jumped, they would say one of 2 things. You know, it would be, they would swap those around, and like one of the characters would say alley-oop every time he jumped. You know, it was one of his 2 things, and it was like, come on, this shouldn't be that hard.
No, you know, it doesn't really bother me. I mean, I totally hear it. It's a little annoying, but it also doesn't distract me much from the experience.
It's distracting for me because Katie will be next to me on the couch. I'm playing Xenoblade, and she's like, "Don't they ever say literally anything else?"
and you're like, "No." But like,
Wait,
man,
I got one more nitpick, and it drives me crazy.
Okay, fine, get it in.
Once you're in a combat scenario, you can't jump, but you are very often on like ledges and cliff sides and stuff, and it's so easy for like an enemy to be like just up the lip of a.
You can if you put your sword away.
You can.
If you sheath your sword, then you can jump.
I ran into a silly situation today because remember you were talking about characters who are moving around can't attack.
Yeah,
I ended up in a situation where I jumped. I was on a ledge, and my other characters were not. And I used the thing where it's like, all right, everybody gather on me, or everybody like come to me, right? And everybody was trying to run to me, but they can't jump because all their weapons are drawn, so they can't jump up onto the ledge. So they're constantly running into the cliff face right underneath me, so none of them can attack. So this enemy is sitting here getting free pot shots on them, and they're not doing anything to stop it because they're in the middle of a running animation. And I was like,
I know.
What the fuck?
There's all these systems, and I feel like they just need a little more depth in terms of how you can maybe control like maybe the positionings of your party members, especially now that they have all these rings on the ground. It would be so smart if they just added a little bit of that, because sometimes I feel like with these Xenoblade games is that while there's like a lot of systems, that battles, you know, once you get them, you know, it's a 150-hour game, and probably after hour 30 you're going to have most of that. It's going to feel pretty similar for the rest of the game. You're going to kind of understand that rhythm, and it does kind of start to feel a little bit shallow to me, even once you get like the elemental chain attacks and Xenoblade 2 or whatever. Once you get that down, you sort of figured it out. And I just wish there was a little more. That's why I like the ring system, because, you know, it adds a little bit of depth. I just wish there was a little bit more. And so, you know how there's like the come to me thing? I wish there was like a, hey, you come here and stay here, and maybe or maybe just one of you follow
more
me.
of an
Just something a little bit more
system
thing,
like that,
or an AI system. That would be nice. Some scripting.
A better AI.
All right, I think we've done Xenoblade justice. I mean, we're probably going to bring this up again on future shows because, like I said, I fully intend to keep playing it, so we'll check back in with it over time. And I hope I actually do manage to stick with it, because, like I said, it's been so long since I feel like I've played a non-Final Fantasy RPG through to completion. So
I really do think, knowing you, Nick, and knowing the kind of gamer you are and what the kinds of games that you enjoy, I think it's going to be a really a good choice for you for sure.
Awesome. That
you
is
need to stick with it. Trust that the story is going to go places, Nick.
Yeah.
Even when you're kind of down on the systems, trust that the story will get crazy, because that's one thing that always happens in these games.
Wonderful. That's fucking awesome to hear. Okay, I actually want to take a quick break right now. When we come back, we're going to talk
Cool.
about. I'm going to talk about the Mortuary Assistant. We're going to check back in with Brad and Ed on Symphony of War, and we're going to answer a couple questions from our listeners and wrap up. So, if you're watching us live or listening at home, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the show. Jumping into the next game we want to talk about this evening is a little game that I streamed last night on the feed. I played the Mortuary Assistant, which launched yesterday. This is another indie horror game. This is the second big, I think what I'm calling big high profile indie horror game coming out this year, and this one has a really cool little spin to it. So
isn't it a little sad that you're playing an assistant? You're not even the actual mortician.
Well, there's a reason for
assistant.
that. Yeah, you are. So this game has actually a really cool setup. Which I played the demo for this during. I think this was during Steam Next Fest, or around that time. And it launched fully yesterday. And immediately, I was thrown into a different scenario than I was kind of expecting. Like, the demo gave me a pretty good idea of the layout of the mortuary where the whole game takes place. But and it gave you a little hint of kind of the story or whatever. But the game starts, you are the assistant to this mortician. You show up on the first day of the job. He kind of teaches you the basics, whatever. And then he calls you back later
that
night.
Nights at Freddy's?
I mean, it's funny you say that. That's exactly what Robin asked me when I was talking about it. It's not Five Nights at Freddy's though. I'll get there. But scenario wise, the mortician ends up kind of he's calls you back. He's I can't work tonight. I need someone to cover for me. You know the basics now. Can you come in and just and do this shift? And you're oh yeah, cool, of course, sure. I'm the new guy. Of course I'll do it. So you go there, and then he's ha, gotcha. There's a demon that is trying to claw its way into our world through one of the three bodies that are now in the mortuary.
Mm-hmm.
And he's basically I've lured you here because fuck that, and I want you to take care of it. But he's also been kind of researching, and he's been trying to figure out how to get rid of this demonic presence forever or not. And so he has this computer that has research on it, how he's researched demons and the dead languages and all kinds of rituals and stuff, and it's all stored in his computer. So the catch of the game is you have to survive the night in the mortuary. You have to process these three bodies that were brought into the mortuary. And as the night goes on, what you're essentially trying to do is, one, you have to identify the name of the demon who is trying to possess you or come into this world. And then he's coming.
Steve?
They're demonic names, not human names, Nolan, sorry. But essentially, he's trying to claw his way into our world through one of these three bodies. So you have to try to identify the demon and figure out which body he's trying to inhabit, and then burn the body. And that's kind of how you kind of complete your shift, and you get an ending to the game. So technically last night I did an entire playthrough and I got the first ending. But the reason I say it's funny that you brought up Five Nights at Freddy's is because, technically speaking, while I got an ending, I got credits last night. I survived the first night shift, but the story kind of continues. You have another encounter with the mortician, and and then it kind of sets you up for sets up for a reason why you would need to come back. It's almost like a roguelite. So you have to come and do multiple nights, and there's actually 5 different endings you can unlock in the game, and each night you're going to learn more about what's actually going on in the character. So I actually
is this really how morgues work? They have a little slab that they put on a moving table, and if so, that's pretty smart.
I think so. Yeah. So what's really cool about this game is kind of the actual mechanics of it is you actually pull the bodies out of the morgue, take them into the autopsy room, or not the autopsy room, but I guess it's an autopsy room, I suppose. But you have to actually go through the embalming process. You're working the night. You're doing the mortician's job. All the while, you are having to endure these hauntings that are completely random.
Things trying to get you.
Yeah, so like the demon is trying to fuck with you the entire night, and he's trying to possess you, and you are slowly becoming more and more susceptible as you like the more shit that you see, the more susceptible you are becoming to being possessed by this demon. So it's honestly, you're kind of trying to, there's not like an actual clock, but you're kind of trying to beat a clock, because you have to figure it out and burn a body and make a decision before you become completely, like, you're just completely overwhelmed and this thing takes over.
But is the thing that's trying to get you, can it cause like a fail state, and is that stuff scripted?
I don't know. What I can tell you about how this game is constructed is that there's over like 100 different events that can happen in any random order at any given time, and for each one that you see, it affects your kind of like mental states. And there's no like meter or anything that shows you at any given time like how far along your meter is, or your mental state has progressed or digressed, or however you want to look at it. But like the mortician tells you at the beginning, if you're concerned that you are starting to become more susceptible to this demon, pull out a pen and paper and just start scribbling on a notepad without thinking about it, and see if anything weird starts to show up on the paper. So like periodically throughout the thing, you can go into the menu, there's like a little like a post-it note, and you can like draw on the post-it note, and if you start to see like symbols kind of like starting to come through, it means you're becoming more and more susceptible, and things are going to start happening more frequently, fail state, but I'm not entirely sure what happens. And also, you can make the wrong call. Like, there's 3 bodies, and if you only have one opportunity to burn the body. So if you choose the wrong body, I would imagine you get a different outcome. I don't know what that is yet, because luckily I was able to pick the right body last night. But it's cool because you're not, while you're doing all the things that are more like, you have to sew their jaw shut and put eye caps over their eyes, and you have to like fill their body cavity with fluids and stuff. Like, you're doing all this stuff, and you're also trying to keep an eye. You're trying to keep an eye out for, like, obviously there's like bigger haunts, right? So you're like navigating this mortuary, and like creepy shit is happening all over the place. But you're also looking for like little things, like if their hand twitches, like a hand or like a foot twitching on one of the bodies, is like a sign that this might be the body that they are trying to inhabit. So like you're trying to keep a keen eye on like little movements like that. So it's not all big stuff. So, and it's cool because like over the course of the game, I started to pick up. I was like, I'm learning. I was like, the beginning, I was really overwhelmed, and I was like, oh god, you have to walk around, you have to find all the stuff in the cabinets and pull it out, and you have to like mix all these reagents and put it in the thing, and then drain the blood out of the body. And like the entire time you're walking around this room, I have to walk by this creepy window, and I'm like, I don't want to go near the window, but I have to get in that cabinet and all this stuff. But by the end of it, I'm like, I remember where everything is in the room, and I'm starting to like, I know how to actually process these bodies. So like, I'm doing it faster. So by the end of the game, it's kind of, or by the end of the playthrough, I'm like, I know what I'm doing, and there's shit happening, but like, I feel the pressure.
I'm just trying to understand is there that Five Nights at Freddy's moment where if you're like just really bumbling it up or just not doing your job, is something going to rush into the room and just get you?
No. I don't know.
Because I've seen people play the demo. I think I've seen like clips of it, and it was this sort of a thing where like they were doing the autopsy, and they look up, and then they look back down, and they're doing the autopsy, and they look up again, and they see something like standing in the hallway, and they freak out, right? But then if you look in the comments, you're like, wait, they didn't see the other thing the first time they looked up. And I rewound, and the first time they looked up, there was something else standing at a completely different spot. I'm like, holy shit. And I'm like that's like a cool, scary moment, but can that, get you?
I don't know. I don't think they get you. Like, but like every time you see those things start to happen. Things over time start to happen with increasing frequency. And I got to the point in the first night where like some really intense music started to play, and I don't know what it was alluding to, but it gave me the sense that like I'm starting to run out of time. When I was scribbling on the notepad, I was starting to see this like really like distinct like symbol showing through the scribble. And I was like, okay, I feel like it's telling me that if I don't hurry up, this demon is going to possess me and there will be a fail state. I can't say that with any certainty yet. I have every intention now of going back and getting all 5 endings of this game.
I feel like this whole game exists just to set up that moment where you push the guy over and then you pull him back and he's like making like a creepy face or something. Like that's totally gonna happen, right?
I mean, probably. There's over 100 things that can happen in this game. One of the, I swear to God, one of the scariest things I've ever seen in my life happened last night. Because at the beginning of this game, it's like the main character is sitting in a diner having a conversation with her grandmother. And last night, I was on the computer, and I checked on something, and I printed out the sheet that you need to like file in the records room. So I grabbed the sheet, and I'm walking around, and all of a sudden, I look out the window, and the grandmother is like outside the window, and she's like just like with her hands on the window, and she's like her eyes are like solid black, and I was like, no, I have to turn this game off. Fuck this shit. This is the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I can't play this game.
But not all of them. Like some of them were kind of like, like that didn't really get me. But some of them were actually really creepy.
Did you imagine this game in VR?
Oh,
no,
God.
No, I can't. But like, bring it on.
Did you have to pick this image of this character as the overlay though?
That's the main character, Ed.
I did.
Because he's staring into my soul right now, and I don't like it.
Yeah, that's what it's fascinating. Like I walked into the room. I was going to go back into the autopsy room last night near the end of my playthrough, and the doors, the double doors, have those like circular windows on it. And I was about to push the door open, and I could see him sitting on top of a shelf in the room. And I was like, nope, I'm just gonna sit outside the door here. And I was just like, nah, I'm gonna go back in the other room. And I went back, and I came back, and he was gone. So I was like, you can kind of wait them out, I guess, if you spot them early enough. And but like,
the next time you play this game, can you try to fuck up?
Yeah, no. I mean, here's one thing I kind of suspect, because, like I said, there's specifically 5 endings. When you start the game, it tells you how many shifts you've done, how many demons you have
avoided.
I don't know, not avoided. It tells you how many demons
you keep coming back for more.
Oh, okay.
It tells you how many demons you've banished and stuff. Like at the end, there's kind of a loose explanation as to why he wants you to keep coming back, and he's basically saying it's like one of those things like, good job, you did it, but like this is not the end. This demon will never leave you alone, kind of thing. So like you have to kind of keep coming back and doing it, whatever. But it shows you how many demons you've banished, and there's in the morgue there's 5 things. And I'm guessing by the end, like you're having to do more than 3 bodies, so you have less time, or you have more to accomplish in the same amount of time. So I'm imagining it's going to get harder. I'm guessing, but I don't know. And like, there's a lot of stuff I haven't done yet. Like, you can actually go outside the mortuary and walk around the whole building. There's a storm cellar thing that I couldn't get into, but I imagine at some point I'm going to have to go down there. Like there's stuff that I haven't seen in this game, and I played through the entire first, shift last night in about 2.5 hours. That kind of gives you an idea. But yes, I will tell you next time I play it, because I'm going to try and get all 5 endings. So I would imagine at some point I'm going to fuck up in that, because I don't think every single shift I do is going to be a success. So it'll be interesting to see how they try to like throw curveballs at you. But like, I just want to say, this game is really cool just from a conceptual standpoint. I've never seen something like this kind of approach to horror in a game before. And I mean, it has like certain tropes that I think obviously are very common nowadays with, since PT became such a common thing. I just played Madison. It does a lot of the same kind of things that Madison does, but it does them all dynamically, and it's also tasking you with doing something really creative, which is the whole processing the bodies and things. Like, you having to wheel the bodies down the hall on the gurney and put them back into the morgue slider, and then go take the gurney to the next one and pull the body out. And it's just like, I was pushing a body down the hallway getting ready to set him up, and you could just see his foot twitch, and I was like, oh shit, is this the one? And right up until the end, I was like, I didn't know if I was making the right calls. Like, I might be about to burn the wrong body.
They're already dead. Who cares?
Nick, you've been hiding it from all of us. What was the name of the body that you first examined?
Well, yeah, the names on the bodies are dynamically generated, and they're all names that patrons, like people who help fund the game, chose. And one of the first bodies I came across was Annie, are you okay? Or Annie, Like the way it's spelled is Annie. Are you okay? Like, are you okay was her last name. I saw that shit on Twitter though, so I was pretty surprised actually when I saw that one pop up so quickly in my game. But yeah, I don't know. This game's pretty cool. It's like definitely one of the more unique approaches to an indie horror game that I've seen in some time. So I'm gonna go back and get all 5 endings because this game does what it sets out to do pretty well.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the Mortuary Assistant. Okay. All right, Brad, Ed.
That's
Symphony
me.
of War, the Nephilim
Take it away. I
Saga.
talked about this last week. I mean,
Yeah, sure. So unfortunately,
I definitely didn't think this game would ever come up again on this podcast.
It's a miracle.
No, I don't remember how it came on my radar, but I was looking for a pretty good Steam Deck game to play, so I found Symphony of War, bought on Green Man Gaming, and installed it. And correct me if I'm wrong, Brad, but is it very similar to like the Ogre Battle games in terms of like how things are set up? Okay.
Yeah, the way you set up your army and your squads, super Ogre Battle.
Yeah, I figured in like going through the battles and like I've kind of like by playing this game, it's kind of like exposed me to a different type of tactics game, like other than like the Final Fantasy Tactics or the Fire Emblems, right? And so it kind of has made me excited to like maybe try out Ogre Battle or try out a Tactics Ogre and stuff like that, and give those a try. Obviously, like I don't think the story here is anything to like write home to or whatever, or but the tactical level of the game is pretty neat. I love that you build these squads and you can put like these your more beefy soldiers up front and your mages in the back, but there are some enemies that attack from the back, and so you maybe have to think about putting your weaker characters in the middle and then also put some strong people in the back. And just like
it's fun and it's addictive and it's crunchy fun. And like I don't know what your final clock time was, but I was kind of embarrassed when I looked because I'm like halfway through the game and it was like around the same time as yours after completing it. And that's because I've been spending way too much time fucking with my squads and kind of fine tuning and tweaking everything. I love that sort of customization.
So I will say my clock time cannot be trusted because I played most of it offline in the Steam on the Steam Deck, and so I think like when I came back online, it like counted it weird or whatever. Yeah, so I don't think I played 20 hours. I think it was closer to 30, maybe 35.
Okay.
Yeah, but like you're right. It is addicting. It's super fun to play through these maps and get through them. I even like thought about the possibility of playing it on the harder difficulty because you pick a difficulty right when you start the game, and I kind of found the middle difficulty actually fairly easy, and I wish I had a little bit more challenge going on. And I also don't have permadeath on, so I thought about maybe doing that instead. But
permadeath would be kind of brutal, but I definitely want to try hard.
Yeah, I'm curious about what permadeath really means. Like, if one of your characters dies, are they gone forever, or is it like if that entire squad dies, then the squad's gone forever, right?
I think it'd have to be the whole squad to kill off a character.
Yeah. So anyway,
but that's not hard. That happens. I mean,
I know it happens all the time, but like, man, yeah, sure. Like, I actually. You called it like the ugly but addicting game.
Dude, last Killer in chat just said this all sounds great and all, but can we talk about the looks of this game?
I actually kind of dig it. Like it's its own like way. It's kind of neat. Like
I will say,
it's like a pixel art game from like the Game Boy, like the Fire Emblem games that are all pixely and the sprites
was shitting on the character art, but that archer, that buff archer lady, just want to get lost in her arms.
She's a paladin.
I was shitting on the art, but I mostly was shitting on the out of battle art, especially the portraits, which can look very, like,
and they're very static too. Like they have like their facial expressions change very slightly when they're like happy or mad or whatever. But there's not a lot of, like I said, the story isn't the most important thing to play to understand this game. It's kind of neat, and like towards the later end of the game, there's some like character choices that I thought were like very strange, like how they approach the main characters like thing, but like it's different than every other like Fire Emblem game where the main character is like either a god or the most perfect character ever. Like there's no badness in him, but this character has some darkness in him, and so it does do some slightly different things with it. But yeah,
I actually really like the way the game looks when you're in battle.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it is kind of
It's
throwback
super
to the
cool.
old school Fire Emblem, and of course Ogre Battle. I love the way like they sort of like trade blows and stuff like that, and the 2 round system or whatever. Man, I have so much nostalgia for Ogre Battle, but yeah, again, I was sort of making fun of the portraits and the fact that like again, it's not in the footage, but in the story sequences between battles, it is a completely different art style. Like completely
Yes.
different.
Okay, so what it is
It's
is
absurd.
they are using like some like custom engine for the battles.
It's our RPG Maker.
But it's RPG Maker for all of the cutscenes and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So it's
So it
a
looks like a
bizarre
bad
switch.
Super Nintendo sprite game.
It's super weird. But like I don't know, it's cool. It's cool.
It's almost charming in how bizarre that is.
Yeah, it is.
Different art styles.
But I really like the time that you spend in like the pre-mission prep or whatever, where you're like moving characters around because each little squad can only have a certain capacity to it, and it depends on your the leader's like leader score. And so like you will find that you're like actually removing characters or disbanding squads so that you add them to your main character squad so they become more powerful, and moving things around and leveling people up and changing
and
classes.
The artifact system, which modifies your capacity limits. Oh, that's so good.
And I don't like I said, forgive me if I'm rehashing, but like I love that the resources that you use to class change your characters are not used. It's just they're not consumed. They're just utilized, and so you can always declass back and get all those resources back
I
again.
didn't even know that. I'm halfway through the game.
Yeah, so you if you declass away, you get all those resources back, so you can switch to a different path for that character if you so want to. And it becomes really cool later on when you max out the top end of the tree. And you're like, okay, well, I've maxed out the top end of the tree. Let me descale back and then max out a different
shit, now I feel stupid for
character.
like golding, like using the proof of merits.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck.
It's okay.
So I pretty much exclusively use the proof of merits on the named characers, the main characters, because you can't really change their class that much anyway. But like, and when you use this proof of merits, they increase their stats, they get more powerful, but you can't change their class anymore. Cool. Yeah. But like, but I love that, and like you get it's right around the time when I was feeling a little resource constrained. You get you unlock the ability where the cost of every resource is halved. So all of a sudden, your entire army can now all level up at the same time. So it was a really cool moment. It's very late in the game when you get that because it's part of the tech tree that you unlock. It's like one of the last things.
Can I say one more thing? And I hate to get into nitty gritty,
so
but I don't usually have somebody else to talk about this kind of weird game with. One thing that bothers me is that sometimes you'll get into a situation, and I didn't realize this early on, and I was recruiting a bunch of characters, and now I'm realizing like, oh, this like cavalry unit is like a water affinity. He's never gonna have the strength enough to like class up. Like I feel like this is just a trash unit. I wish there was more of those items that would like boost their stats so I can kind of get them.
Yeah,
over
or
that
change
level.
their affinity, right? Because you can change
or change their affinity. But I sort of
affinity.
ran out of those. I ran out of the affinity changing items, and I'm like, oh, I wish there was a shop where I could like dump a little bit more of my currency into like getting those specific items, because I feel like I have these units that are just like
that is the thing is that the shops are completely random. Every time you visit it, or every chapter, you get a whole new slew of items, and you can only buy one of those items at the shop that when it's offered, and then you have to hope for the next the item to appear. So I basically like have found a number of items that I think will be like valuable. Like I kind of stopped buying artifacts that weren't like the increase your capacity artifacts, because I had so many artifacts by the end of the game. But I always bought like the change your affinity items, the resource items and stuff like that. But man, it's like it has 30 chapters in it. Each of these chapters are about the size of what you're seeing here. So they all take about maybe 15-20 minutes to do. So it's a pretty deep game, like as far as like lengthwise, and definitely like spending time customizing your units, changing around your squads and changing around their classes is like a very addicting element, and that's also an element that I love in Fire Emblem and these other tactics games too. So it's cool. It's cool. I definitely recommend it if you like these kinds of games.
For those listening, a reminder: it's because of the weird name. It's a weird name. It's
Symphony of War. The Nephilim Saga is what it's called.
Yeah,
it's
great name. Spell that. Check the show notes.
Great name.
The Ogre Battles games are a little hard to go back to. I do think they released Ogre Battle 64 on the Wii U Virtual Console, and I think I don't know if
was Ogre Battle 64 considered was that like a good Ogre Battle game?
It's a pretty good one. There's the original one, and then there's Ogre Battle 64, which is it's another Ogre Battle game. It wasn't like Matsuno directed or anything, but it's actually pretty good.
I just think about like the way people think of like Castlevania 64. It's just like ooh.
No. It's a very similar type of game to the first one.
And you can still buy games on the 3DS and Wii U eShop, but you have to add credit to your Nintendo account either through gift cards or in the Nintendo like Switch eShop. That you can't you can't purchase directly with the game. Yeah.
Fuck it, just simulate it.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Anything else y'all want to add about that before we move on? All right, cool. Questions time. Like I said last week, I just want to remind everybody, if you're listening at home, you can of course submit questions for us to talk or discussion topics, whatever that you want us to talk about, via Discord at discord.gg/4Player. I set up a thread every week in the submit a question channel for the upcoming show. Just get in there, leave a question, we'll get to it. I'm also going to be keeping a close eye on YouTube comments and comments on the podcast on the website at 4playernetwork.com. So if you leave stuff there, I'll find it, I'll pull it in. But yeah, just wanted to let everybody know. So now we have a couple questions tonight. Our first one comes from Haste. Haste says, in regards to the GTA 6 talk from the last podcast, oh man, this is a question specifically for Crispy. Hold on. Okay, he has two questions. I'm going to skip the Crispy one because Crispy's not here tonight. He says, to everyone else, what are some locations that you think would be a perfect fit for a GTA games which haven't been done yet? I'm honestly surprised Chicago hasn't been a locale. Would Texas be a good pick?
No, everything's too spread out in Texas.
Okay, so Texas would be a bad pick from like a landscape perspective, but like from the social commentary, like the satire, oh my god,
our politics writes the comedy itself. Like there's no need for it to be here.
It'd be I mean yeah, but there's like no interesting
not a Saints Row game though. I mean there's satire in GTA, but I feel like what's going on in Texas is like it's hard to make a GTA game based on this current world we're in right now anyways, which is so fucking absurd.
Well, they're definitely gonna try.
I mean, well, are they though? Like there's been some like discussion about GTA 6.
Right.
For the worst part of it is that they have like the main character is going to be a female or whatever, and like people are all up in arms about that. But like,
I can't even believe that that's actually sincere. I mean, those people exist, but like.
They're far from those.
Even most of those people can't actually have a problem with that.
Yeah,
I mean, honestly, I think we mentioned this last time. And I thought it was actually really cool. Like, the major rumor right now is that GTA 6, like the story, is kind of modeled after Bonnie and Clyde, which I think could be a really cool dynamic that hasn't really been explored in a GTA game. And also, it will allow them to have some of those elements that we all liked about GTA 5 with the multiple characters and the switching and stuff. Well, obviously allowing and heist, and obviously allowing us to finally have a female protagonist in this game, which is long overdue. So all of that to me sounds great. The one thing that they haven't mentioned is the time period, which, you know, to Brad's point, it might be difficult to make effective satire given the state of the world that we live in right now. So maybe they're not even going to try, and they're going to set it in the past again. But there's allusions to it maybe being because if it's set in because they're talking about it being set in and around Miami or a fictional Miami, which Vice City was always kind of a fictional Miami, so it might just be Vice City again. I mean, it sounds like that's what it's going to be the closest thing to.
I think it's going to be modern day because I mean, think about it. the last Grand Theft Auto game came out on like the 360. You know, it's been a long time. That's a long period of
2013.
time for the modern landscape
just going
to
off of
change.
what you just said was that it might be difficult to make effective satire of the
Well,
current world that
yeah.
we
So
live
I
in.
mean, maybe they'll just make a crime story that's less. You know, I mean,
but
not-
GTA has always been satire. Like it's all not to the same
Yeah,
extent.
but it's also still very influenced by like popular media. You know, like GTA. 5 and 4. You know, it was like, oh, you know, The Sopranos is a thing now, and this is going to be very, you know, this character's going to, well, whatever.
Heat.
It's been a long time. A lot has happened. The main thing I think they would go like present day is because GTA Online was such a big thing, and I feel like it's easier to add content in cities or whatever, like they're hinting at or talking about, if it's like more modern day, because Vice City is like pretty one note. You know, it's like, oh, it's like, you know, Scarface, Miami Vice, whatever, right? And then that's kind of it.
Well, so
it's hard to build like a whole online world around that, I feel like.
Yeah, we'll get to eventually get back to the original question here, but like one of the main things from that Bloomberg article was that like at one point this was supposed to be the world. Like Chris Davis mentioned this last week, the world was supposed to be way bigger than it actually is now. They scaled it back quite a bit, but that it's still to the point where it's going to be Miami and like the surrounding area, which might allude to like going beyond, you know, into the Keys and, you know, maybe even to part of like the northern part of South America, and so, like who knows. So there's a lot of,
I bet they're gonna do a lot of they're gonna do like a Disney analog.
Of course.
Oh yeah, they better. Oh man, that'd be great. Okay, but back to the original question: what locales would we like to see that haven't been actually done yet? I mean, everybody always talks about them like they still haven't gone. I mean, they haven't gone international since like the you know, way back in the day. GTA 2 that was in London.
Yeah.
It would be cool to see them go international again.
What about Chinatown Wars?
Well, then we're like
that was just Chinatown.
Yeah.
Also, then it's like getting into Sleeping Dogs territory, which still would love to see that, but you know, I don't think that's what they're going for.
No, I was just saying they've gone international. Was the joke?
I think GTA should go to Tokyo, and I think Yakuza should go to Texas, or it should go to New York or something.
Oh yeah,
I want that so bad. I want it so bad. That would be so cool.
I mean, if you're gonna do it, you have to choose a landmark city.
Landmark city, but it also has to be ripe for
the proper
social
satire.
Commentary. Yeah, and satire.
I mean, like the low hanging fruit, I think, would be Paris, but I don't know about that.
I don't know if Paris is. If they're going to go international, I feel like it's going to have to be London and the surround. You know.
Yeah, it would definitely be somewhere in England.
It still needs to be like a metropolitan. It has to be like a huge metropolitan place.
Have you seen Paris?
I know.
It's
I know.
pretty fucking big metropolitan place.
Yeah.
Paris qualifies.
Do you think you could do a like GTA like game in like North Dakota, like Fargo?
I mean, that would be cool to see them try.
So
but then you get like Saints Row was you know, before they started showing off all like the crazy shit. I think they're showing off all this crazy shit now because of like as a knee-jerk reaction to some of the negative feedback they got from those original trailers, which was it looks too scaled back, or it looks too boring, or you know, dull now, which is you know they're setting Saints Row. I
think that was not the words they were using.
Well,
it looks too woke.
The thing with going international. Yeah, I know. The thing with going international, London, Paris, Tokyo, those places are in America. They don't have an overabundance of guns. How is a GTA game gonna work when the cops don't come out of shooting? Because half of them don't even carry guns.
That is true.
GTA only works in America because our society is so fucked up here.
You're right. That is kind of like the sad underlying truth, and the worst part is like a lot of the people who like really love GTA just they don't even realize like that they're the ones being made fun of
the parody of yeah.
It's like yeah, I don't think you're in on the joke, man. But yeah, I don't know. You're right. You're absolutely right. No, what if they went to Reborn? It says, what about South America?
Rio de Janeiro,
South
would
America,
be pretty
maybe.
decent.
Yeah, Rio de Janeiro could be cool.
Oh yeah, that I mean,
Yeah.
like talk about like gun violence
Yeah.
in not United States. Like that's a pretty good choice.
Where was Just Cause? Was that kind of Rio?
It was
Or 3 at least,
on
maybe?
the island?
I mean, it was a
Really?
fictional island.
I thought it
nation.
was a fictional place.
Okay.
But it was
You're
right,
based
you're right.
off of something.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, I like the idea of Rio de Janeiro, and I like the idea of London if they were going to go outside of the states. But yeah, as far as like in the states, I feel like they've done all of the
Also, now that I
obvious
think about it,
options.
international Mexico City and Caracas would be pretty good too.
Man, they just need to fight. They just need to go international, man. But like,
They just need to, but not
character-
across the Atlantic.
character-
They just need to
but
go
the main-
to South
yeah.
America.
But the main character needs to be American, so they can just make him just like the worst.
We have a location, so like I feel like talking about this is something we're supposed to do like 15 years from now.
Yeah.
Because that's probably gonna be when the next GTA comes out.
All right. Our next question tonight comes from the Drunken Merchant. He says, I recently got around to Final Fantasy VII Intergrade, and I gotta say, Fort Condor is really fun. What's a mini game that you obsessed over to the point that it made you forget about the main story? Other examples may include Triple Triad and the Shooting Gallery and Evil Within 2.
Gwent.
Yeah, Gwen.
I really liked the combat minigame in Xenogears, which was sort of like a versus mech fighting game type thing. It was kind of simple, but the cool thing is like every enemy in the game became like a selectable in the roster, and you could play it multiplayer, and I had a lot of fun fighting my roommate in Xenogears back then.
Reborn brought up a good one. The Hostess Club in Yakuza 0. Played that a lot. That was
Triple Triad, does that refer specifically to Final Fantasy?
Yeah, 8.
8? Okay. Yeah. What did they call it in 9? Because I thought it was also Triple Triad in 9, but maybe
no,
it
was not called Triple Triad.
Okay, yeah, Triple Triad.
No one cared about that.
Yeah,
you're right. That's my favorite Final Fantasy of all time, but it has nothing on Final Fantasy VIII's card game. That's for sure. Yeah, I lost countless hours of Final Fantasy VIII's card game.
I think a good like mini game in a game, overall, I think the ones I'm thinking of off the top of my head, Triple Triad and like Gwent, are ones that, card games aside, they're ones that involve the rest of the world. It is not like a Yakuza where you just go to the club and you do the club thing. It is you're interacting, you're trying to find other people in the world that also interact with this kind of mini game, and it becomes like a bigger thing. I think those are what kind of drive you to kind of, when they're integrated into the world, not just like a one-off thing.
Yeah, one of my favorite is in Dark Cloud 2, Sfeda, which is the golf game you played after you cleared one of the dungeon floors.
That was so
good. Because the dungeons were randomly generated, like the floor layouts or whatever, right? But once you cleared it, once you've killed all the enemies and found the exit or whatever, it just turns into a golf game where they randomly spawn the golf hole, which was like a floating in the air. It was like a portal or whatever, and you had golf clubs, and you had to get the ball through the hole, but it had like a polarity, and every time it like bounced off of something, it changed polarity, and you had to make sure that the polarity was right when you hit it through the hole. So you had to like bank shots to change the polarity right before it went through. It was just like a really smart like mini game that they made, and you could do it on every floor of it and every dungeon after you cleared it. It was so super fun.
A quick shout out to Blitzball on Final Fantasy X. I played that countless hours back in the day. It's probably one of the main reasons I spent over 120 hours playing Final Fantasy X. Also, because I play so many new games now, I do try to avoid these kinds of distractions. But like in Horizon Forbidden West, there is like a chess type game called Machine Strike, which is really cool. And the few games that I've played, I was like, oh man, I could see myself losing countless hours in this. So I'm specifically not going to let myself do that. But it is really, really cool. And you're actually, as you're exploring the world, you're collecting like these special machine pieces that you can use on the game.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, they
I'm
really
also
tried to build
thinking-
that out. I wasn't that big a fan of it. I played a few matches and then I just stopped because it's already a 150-hour game practically anyway. So
yeah. I mean that is what I'm also trying to avoid, is adding another 50 hours to a game that's already 100 plus. I'm also
The
thinking
boxing mini game in Lost Judgment 2 was super fun.
Cool.
So I don't
Not
know
really
if-
mini games, but in Rockstar, it's like in the Rockstar games, it's like Red Dead Redemption, like playing poker or liar's dice or five
Yeah.
finger play. Those are always fun to do, especially
those are
five finger play where they have the different face buttons or whatever as the different
Yeah.
things, and you're like, hey, trying to switch and they switch it up on you. That's pretty fun. Sorry, Chris, I
And just the way
interrupted
they
you.
present
You're fine.
those are really cool too. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah.
So I'm not certain if these actually qualify as mini games, but I would definitely point to the VR missions in Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2.
Mm.
I don't know if I would qualify those as mini
yeah.
games in this sense, but yeah, I see where you're going.
But if you got Metal Gear Solid 2 Substance, it had a bunch of stuff beyond just the VR mode or VR
Skateboarding.
missions and the main stuff. There was actually a demo in there for a game called Evolution Skateboarding. It was a Konami competitor to Tony Hawk that was actually pretty all right. And you could skate around the big shell as Raiden or Snake and just do cool skateboard stuff. And that was pretty fun. I did play quite a bit of time on that.
That's an obscure one, but cool choice. What was I gonna? Oh god, there's something else I was gonna mention. We should probably move on, but fuck, what was it? Whatever. We're moving on. I forgot what it was. All right. Our next question comes from Zero Skies. He says, "Do you think Monolith Soft would be able to create worlds as large as they do if they were making their games on modern hardware? Would they be
Yes.
realistically be given the budget to do so? It feels like a lot of modern JRPGs scale down their worlds due to budget constraints."
Nintendo has money.
They can absolutely
They'd
do
be
it.
fine.
Yeah,
They did it for
no,
Wii U. I mean,
we're
there was a
talking about-
time when the Wii U was the most powerful console out at the time. There was a small window, but it existed.
I don't ever think it would really be a budgetary thing. I think it's always going to be, especially considering Monolith Soft is a Nintendo company, it's always going to come down to the limitations of the hardware, because that's where Nintendo is always behind everyone else. Like if the Nintendo Switch or the Nintendo Switch 2 was like as powerful as a PS4 at least, maybe, or I don't know, hope maybe a PS5, I don't know, like yeah, I think their worlds would at the same time,
I don't know how you can say that when
big.
I don't know how you can say that when they also have Breath of the Wild on the same, and Breath of the Wild 2 is about to be on the same hardware. Like
Well,
it's not the hardware necessarily that's like constraining them. It's a design choice, it seems like.
Well, no, I'm trying to figure out the best way to phrase this, because the question is actually, if the hardware wasn't an issue, would they still be allowed to make the worlds as big as they are
Yeah,
now?
and that's what I'm saying, is that like I don't think hardware is an issue. I think they're constraining themselves for design reasons of the type of game and the type of world that they're building. And like if they had Xenoblade Chronicles 3 on a PS5, it wouldn't it being on a PS5 wouldn't change their design choice of their world. Maybe they'd try to go even bigger with it, but like and more seamlessly connected or whatever. Rather than
I also think it would be. I think it may not be immediately noticeable, but I do think the worlds would be smaller. But I don't think it. I think they're so good at scale and scope that I think they would be able to hide that pretty well. Like you would still have that sense of scale on a PS5, but the worlds themselves would probably be, considerably smaller if you were to put them side by side with what they have now. Just because you got to think about like the logistics of creating a world that with that much detail at that size is pretty ridiculous. Although, when you think about it, like I think Horizon Forbidden West is insanely good looking for the size that it is.
I'll say two things. I think number one, they're already well experienced with creating large worlds. Technology is only going to have a learning curve to them. They'll figure it out. And number two, there's new technology out there these days that allows for levels of procedural generation that you can subsequently go back and edit to your heart's content. That makes it a lot easier to make these giant open worlds. So
Yeah,
it's
like
just they need to go
speed
back in and fill them in.
Also, I don't think putting like if these games existed on hardware like putting it on a PS5 is not going to just automatically equal a game that looks 1,000 times better than what it looks on the Switch. I think they would always be aiming for this kind of like stylization, which is probably for the best. It's gonna age better over time. Like Breath of the Wild, I think is a game that's gonna look amazing. It's still gonna look great like 15, 20 years from now because of the style that they went with, and I think that's kind of what they're going for with their games as well.
It's not like they make their textures in 4K or maybe even something bigger than that, and then they usually scale it down for the system, right?
Yeah,
and compress the shit out of it.
But it's not how pretty the world is that I think impacts their design choice of how they build their maps. It's like they're being very purposeful about the way they build their maps because of the type of game, the type of story that they're trying to present. It's like, I mean, we talked about it in the last segment about the differences between Xenoblade X and Xenoblade Chronicles 3. Like, is it just because they're so focused on the story that they're not able to do what they did in Xenoblade X? I don't know.
I think it might have something to do with the fact that Xenoblade 1 is like this really beloved game that they've re-released a few times now, and Xenoblade X was the game that wasn't as critically acclaimed, that was on a system that nobody bought, and now they're like, well, I guess we should just make it like the first one since that's the one people like. And I'm like,
right.
Oh.
But like also
So
to what Ed's point about them tailoring their design based on like the story they're trying to tell, I think a lot of that comes into play too when you think about why they chose to have a party of 6 characters that are always on screen at once. And you think about the kind of story they're telling right now, which specifically is like they're putting a lot of emphasis on the interactions between the characters because they're these two warring factions that are now forced to work together. And of course, when you do that, you want as much of that to shine through as if you're given the opportunity to pick a party of 3 when you have 6 characters and 3 of them are on one side of this warring faction and the other 3 on the other, you could just as easily pick 3 characters from the same side and you would never get those interactions, which would be a detriment to the story. So like I think that influences certain design choices like that.
I wonder if Nintendo is holding on to an X port for Switch because they knew 3 was coming out this year. Because there's that leak and rumor that like they've had Metroid Prime remake done for like forever, but they're just holding it for the right moment. Probably holding it
Apparently,
for like
Pikmin 4 has been done for like 6 years now, and it's coming though.
I wonder if they're thinking about that, and like if that's the case, like if like next year they release Xenoblade Chronicles X remake or a port of it and it is successful, maybe we could see Xenoblade Chronicles 4 or X2 be more closer to X than what we get out of 1, 2, 3.
You're giving me too much
I know,
hope.
I am.
I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Especially because X was also like a dual screen game, more or less. I mean, a lot of that game was about sort of like mapping out the world, and you were doing a lot of stuff on the not map, literally like
the screen.
But
you could play that. You could play that just on the gamepad, right? So like having that functionality and like the easy switch between the two things, I think would hopefully.
I'd love for it to happen, but I think it's the sales combined with the critical response, which wasn't great because that game was really kind of weird and obtuse and different from the first one.
Yeah.
All right. Last question tonight. Last question tonight comes from Dr. Michael Morbius, MD.
Oh, no.
It says this is. Oh, God. You're being forced to adopt 2 kids to take care of until they reach adulthood, but they have to be kids from video games. Which 2 do you pick?
John and Jason.
It's a good question.
Trying to think of kids in video games.
Adopt 2 kids.
Which
Alex,
kids?
Alex from Symphony of War seems like a pretty good kid.
Oh god.
I have no idea who that is.
One of the characters' kids.
His fucking portrait freaked me out the first time I saw it.
I'm thinking about, first of all, somebody's already reborns in chat already yelling Jason. No, not Jason.
Those are bad
Sean.
kids. Don't adopt those kids. They're bad.
Am I muted? Can y'all not hear me?
Yeah, we heard
I
you.
couldn't.
That's literally what I said as soon as this question was asked.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
I
have
didn't
it
hear
on
it.
my recording. I said Sean and Jason.
Oh no, sorry. Didn't totally miss that. My
Yeah.
apologies.
Oh, kids are pretty bad in games. Who would be a good kid to adopt?
I mean, I'm thinking about I don't know. Now you're getting into like weird, like.
Oh,
So
I
is
got
it, would it
one. I
weird?
got
Would it be
one.
weird to say like adopt like Ellie? Ellie is a cool
I got-
kid.
I got one.
She's already
she's an adult now.
basically a teenager.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would
from the
adopt
Last of Us Part One,
Emil from Nier. Emil from Nier. That's a good boy.
Yeah.
Emil had a rough time. He deserves adoption.
You know, Nier I think is a game kind of about a found family anyways, and he's a good boy.
There's like some
what's
games.
The kid's name from Guardians of the Galaxy, from the new one. You know what I'm talking about? Maybe it's not a good choice.
yeah,
What's her name?
What's her face? She was
Yeah, she was
bad. Oh, she
was good.
cool. I liked
What's her
her.
name?
I don't remember her name. Was
No,
it Sunny?
I know, but
Is
she
it
was
Sunny? Is that
she
her
was
name?
literally she was bad. She was a bad
I think about
kid.
some like past like older games where they were kids in the games and they were voice acted, but they were always voice acted either poorly or like to a great degree where they're like throwing the voice actors like throwing their voice or whatever.
Clementine. Yes, sorry, Clementine. That's the one. Sorry,
And
somebody in chat, Bob Noise in chat was like Clem. I was like, yep, Clementine. That's it.
But I think about like recruiting those people or like adopting those kids and having them have to those terrible voices throughout their childhood. Sounds like not a good time.
Yeah.
What about
Clementine doesn't
Baby
need to be
Mario?
adopted though. She's like
Baby Mario?
No, not
Baby
Baby
Mario.
Mario. Baby
God.
Mario does.
Why
You
not?
let him fall down on the ground, he won't shut the fuck up.
But
what
then
about,
he's safe. If he gets hurt, he's just in a bubble. He can't actually get hurt.
There we go. Nolan's finally busting out like video game ass answers for this question, like actual incorporating mechanics into his choice for
Yeah.
adoption.
has Baby Yoda made it into any video games yet?
I'm afraid not. I don't
Yeah,
think so.
Not that I know of.
The one choice that I know I'll get ire for, but probably Cook and Mac from Lost Odyssey. They have a good
I think
story
you're only
behind
going to
them.
get ire for that because nobody here else here played that game.
Wait,
just
that
by hearing
can't
it.
be true.
Well,
I can't be the only one that's
even
played it.
I played the first
Some of us
disc.
have played it, but that's a very dated reference, so I don't think you're going to get pitchforks from this chat.
What about any of the kids from Fallout 3? Because they can't die.
No,
You can't
they're all
kill 'em.
terrible. Abominations. There's so many abomination children in video games.
Horrible.
Believe me, I've tried. Oh my god,
Jesus.
that's fucked up.
The
I
little
love it.
sister from Bioshock. No,
Oh yikes!
Oh shit!
Yeah.
No, hell
it's a
no.
good question, but you gotta really think about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I like Emil, and I like Emil and Sunny. Those are good picks.
Those are.
I'm gonna go hands down Clementine.
Yeah, the baby Metroid.
The baby Metroid from Samus 2.
Yeah, that was awesome. That's one of the greatest babies ever. And then the baby's return in Super Metroid. Come on, nothing's
Wait,
hyper than that moment.
What's the baby's name? Oh, in Death Stranding, the baby.
Lou.
Oh, Lou.
No.
Yeah, Lou. I'll adopt Lou. We know nothing about him other than he lives in a.
But you have
think
to hold him in the
I'm-
sack the whole time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
I
can't-
don't think
you
I
can't
want Goo Baby.
You don't want the goo baby?
No,
He
I'm good.
can't ever not have him though, Nick. You always have to have him. in the
Oh
little thing.
God,
Yeah,
child
you're always-
Aloy. Ugh, now that's an abomination.
Yikes!
Oh, the Aloy! Oh my god! Oh my god! That is fucking funny.
That
Yeah,
Reba
that
McEntire
was
hair. Yeah.
that was. It's not even about the hair. It's just something about that child
Yeah,
looks
no,
off, which is
it's
crazy
her head
because
and neck are that of a 40-year-old woman.
Yeah. It's like that one
child body
that,
frame.
Yeah, it's that like emergency pamphlet from like the plane where like the baby's in the seat, but he has like a very adult face. He's like like a 45-year-old man like sitting in a baby seat.
oh my god, it's so weird. Like it's for as good as everything else in that game looks. It's shocking. It's like Child Aloy was like their first pass, their first attempt at making a human character model, and they're like, "Ooh, we fucked that one up." But we need a small human for this game, so let's just use that one.
I think
it's bad.
I think I was visualizing the kids from Cyberpunk. A cheese kid said in chat, like the kids in Cyberpunk that are just small, full-sized humans.
Yep.
Like them, they didn't have a different model for the kids, so they just shrunk the person
Why
down.
is it so hard? Why is it so hard?
Oh man, good question.
Proportionally speaking, your body grows is different as a child, lengthwise of arms and legs and things like that compared to an adult. So,
did you just say that people grow as they get older? In different words.
Cereza from Bayonetta 1.
Oh yeah, totally.
She'd be cool.
All right. Thank you so much for the questions, guys. Again, if you would like to ask us a question or pose thought, I'm trying to get in the habit of posting kind of our agenda for the upcoming episode. So if you have any specific questions related to what we're going to be talking about, you can ask those. But I'll be keeping an eye on the channel in Discord, the thread in Discord, as well as our YouTube comments and the comments on 4playernetwork.com. So you can leave a question or thought there too, and I'll put those onto the docket if you get those in time. So with that said, it is time to wrap up the show tonight with the 4-player minute. Why don't Ed? Fuck it, Ed, you go first tonight.
Cool. So my final thought, 4-player minute thingy or whatever.
You got it. Nailed it.
Today, they released a Pokemon Presents where they talked about Scarlet and Violet for about 15 minutes. In it, they showed off that it's a fully open world. So the wild area from Sword and Shield is the entire map. The legendary Pokemon that you get, you can ride as a motorcycle.
Exactly. Get to the weird part where the fact that you're riding them as fucking motorcycle Pokemon.
Yeah, so the Violet one, it looks like a motorcycle with it, but the Scarlet one uses his legs, but its wheels are also there.
It still has a wheel. Yeah,
it looks weird. Anyway, but it's so cool. You can climb on rocks with them, you can surf with them, and then you can also glide with them. So they're bringing the glider to Pokemon. You can do drop in, drop out 4-player co-op, and basically like you go to a little zone nearby, and you just say, I'm ready to accept my friends come in, and they just drop in and you're all playing in the same world. They said there's 3 different stories, including the classic like gym leader and Elite Four thing, and they didn't really talk about the other 2, but I assume it's like a bad guy team kind of thing and maybe something else. The new gimmick is this weird, like they turn crystal-y or whatever, and they can potentially have a different type from their normal type when they're in that mode. So it's cool. I wish I missed the Dynamax and Mega Evolutions from the previous generations that were like completely different designs. It's just like the same Pokemon, except that has like a hat on that shows the different type they are. And raid battles are coming in from Pokemon Go. And I think maybe they were in Sword and Shield as well. But pretty. It seems like it could be cool. Could be cool.
All I have to say is I'm not falling for it again. I'm not. I'm done fooling myself into thinking that I'm still a Pokemon fan. It's just it's not happening.
I skipped Sword and Shield. I knew it wasn't going to be what I wanted out of it. If it was just more of the same. I am enjoying my time with Pokemon Legends Arceus. But I look forward to a little bit.
I think they canonically changed the name to Arceus because Arceus sounds too much like Arse.
Arceus.
So Arceus is the official.
So I'm enjoying my time with that game. I do miss a little bit more structure. They said you could to battle any gym leader in any order. In the game. So like I think like having a little bit more story, a little bit more structure in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet will be good for the kind of Pokemon game that I want. So I might be into Pokemon again here. So I'll come back on the podcast in like November when it comes out and talk about it for sure. Yeah, November 18th.
Well, in all seriousness, I hope we do have you on the show again before November.
Yeah, definitely.
It's always nice having you here. All right, Brad, you go next.
Yes. My final thought, my 4-player minute. Yeah, 4-player minute final thought thingy. Yeah, whatever it is. We do this the whole point of the change was to make it smoother and more elegant or whatever, and it's awkward.
And you
still.
bringing this up is making it even better, Brad.
Yeah, I know, but you have to do it. It's like it's tradition now.
You just got to turn into the skid. Yeah.
Okay.
Like you're riding one of the new Pokemon.
This isn't only. Oh, I want to ride the Shiva bike from. Was it 13?
13, yes.
The Shiva
had the
motorcycle.
Shiva bike.
I'll ride that motorcycle. All right, my final thought isn't just about Chris Davis, but something came up in Discord the other day.
What is?
We've been coming up with like a list of games that, because it always happens on the podcast. Something comes up and like whatever, like Hollow Knight, and we're like, Chris Davis hasn't played Hollow Knight,
Here we go.
And there's been a lot of these over the years of us being shocked that he hasn't played. So not only did I find out the other day that he's never played a Supergiant game, which is whatever, crazy, right? I mean, who hasn't played a Supergiant game? And it's weird.
A lot of people.
Yes, a lot of people might be true, but you're on a podcast and you've been on a podcast for a very, very long time with people who just talk for hours and gush over these games. And that's why I think it's a little weird sometimes. That's all. But the one I found out that was really strange, and this sort of leads me into my final thought, is that he's never played the spy RPG Alpha Protocol by Obsidian, which is, he's the guy who loves spy fiction and stuff, right? That's his thing. And he's never played Alpha Protocol.
That's like said I have never played the Bourne RPG. Like, of course I would play the Bourne RPG.
And it sort of came up, and I started talking about it, like, why have you never played Alpha Protocol? And other people were like, oh, I never played Alpha Protocol. And then people started talking, his excuse was Red Dead and Alan Wake came out, but we all played those games and still played Alpha Protocol.
Those came out 2 weeks before Alpha Protocol came out, sir.
Yeah, and I played both of those. And I played both of those and Alpha Protocol. Yeah, it's been 10 years. But here's the other thing. He and others started saying, well, it got bad reviews at the time. And motherfucker, these people give me so much shit about, Brad's always posting Metacritic scores. He only plays games that are 8 out of 10. And I'm over here talking about Alpha Protocol, a game that was shit on by critics. And these motherfuckers are the ones that were like, well, the reviews weren't good enough. Look, man, I'm telling you, the PC version, bugs that got fixed, PC versions of games, they age like fine wine. Okay? There's no reason you can't go back to Alpha Protocol. It is a spy RPG by Obsidian. It has a really great script, script, and has a really great dialogue system. There is some jank, You might need to go in there and with some notes from me or somebody else, but you can have a good time, and there are lots of things to appreciate. It is still a spy RPG that was modeled a lot after Mass Effect 1 at the time, and I know you love spies. I know you love Mass Effect. It seems like one you should really play. And apparently a lot of other people missed this one back then. That's what I sort of found out by hanging out in Discord. Everyone just started acting like I was the weird guy who's the only person who played Alpha Protocol and is now recommending some bad game.
Like, okay, Grandma, let's get you back to bed.
It's like, what happened? Like, it's a cult classic.
I mean,
people should play it. It's really cool.
Alpha Protocol and Xenoblade X, like Brad's talked about 2 gems that were critically panned that he loves today.
Yeah.
We all have them. Yeah. We all have that game that's critically panned that we adore.
Look, I might
Days Gone.
Okay, two things.
I might look at reviews, but I don't let that keep me from playing a game.
Look, 2 things real quick. Number 1, I have owned that game on Steam for years. Okay,
that's not going to help you here.
All right,
it doesn't do anything.
And number 2,
frequently tries to use that argument. It's not going to work.
Number 2, it does take me time to play old games. I only played Shadow Complex for the first time a few months ago. Okay, that came out like what 2009, 2010. So
I think so. I think 2009.
I don't know.
It was re-released.
This argument of like it takes me forever to play old games. Maybe we should just fire you, Chris Davis.
Fine. You produce the fucking podcast and you do the videos and all that. Fuck it. I'm out.
Top 3 idea
Of
for
course,
next
I'm
week.
kidding.
The top 3 games Chris Davis should play
Oh,
that he hasn't before.
No, we'd have to do a top 30. There's too many.
Well, there can be 5 of us on the podcast, so that's 15 right there.
We would all have to like be like, "Have you played this? Have you played this? Have you played this?" And one, he would hate us after like 4 of those questions. And
Well, I already hate this in general, so
This is all the more reason to do it, in my opinion.
all right, fair enough. All right, Chris Davis, why don't you go next? I'm saying this knowing full well that there's a really good chance you're going to steal mine, but go ahead.
okay. Well, I'm going to split it between 2 items, so I'm probably going to take Nick's anyway.
Oh God, just pick one. Just pick one. You know.
No, because this is my time. This is my time. I get to talk. You don't. Okay.
I always go last. You're gonna. Steal
Yeah, you
mine.
do because you brought this on yourself. You choose to go that way. You get to do that. You're the fucking host of this podcast. You can start it off.
Right. I'm going next.
Okay,
my 4-player minute starts now. During the Annapurna Interactive presser last week, they closed. It was a pretty cool project. It was, a lot of cool indie looking games. Yeah, it's showing Cocoon. That kind of sucks, but they closed it out with a surprising, left field announcement of The Lost Wilds. Now, last thing we need is another game with the word wilds in it, or I'm already confused, but or world, yeah. But this straight up looks like Alien Isolation on an open world island with dinosaurs, and it almost feels to me like indie developers got sick and tired of waiting for Capcom to make Dino Crisis, and they're like, you know what, bitch, we'll just do it ourselves. And that is great. I honestly, I don't think it's ever going to happen, so I'm totally cool with it. But it's also not Dino Crisis because it's not a survival horror. You're not going to be picking up guns and going in guns a-blazing. It's very much a creep around the island, try to survive, use the things around you to try to evade and survive. It's a survival game with horror elements, but you're not defending yourself with modern weaponry.
Well, I mean, you don't have the ability to actually kill a dinosaur in it. You can only try to scare them off. Is all you can do.
So I like dinosaurs. I don't know if y'all know that about me, and I like survival games a lot now, and I like horror games, and I like games that look like they have really cool atmosphere, and this looks like it checks all of those boxes. Yeah, fuck it. I'm excited for The Lost Wilds coming in 2024.
Nick, one of these days, you're not gonna like it, and you're probably not gonna play it, but you need to take a good look at Jurassic Park Trespasser, because that's what this game is actually trying to be. Not a Dino Crisis successor, not an Alien Isolation with dinosaurs. This is Trespasser, but for the modern day.
I mean, whatever that. Cool.
Trespasser's terrible. Like, it's a literally terrible game.
Oh no, it's absolutely a trash fire game.
Is that because of it? Is that because
we're all over here saying, Chris Davis, you need to play these games because they're amazing, and Chris Davis is like, there's these trash fire games that are horrible, and you have to play them.
Well, it has a storied past behind Trespasser and its development, and it launched extremely buggy. Some of the things they only, like in the past few years, have figured out actually how to fix to make the AI work.
You can go on YouTube and probably watch like a video that just kind of talks about the game for 10 minutes, and then you're set.
Let's be real. That's probably the closest thing I'm ever going to come to it, but I appreciate the sentiment. Anyways,
it's tremendously interesting tech-wise. So
The Lost Wilds, not to be confused with The Outer Wilds or The Outer Worlds. So,
or Lost in
Breath of the Wild.
But it's coming. It's over a year away. It's over a year away. It could very well change. They could change the name. Indie games do that all the time. They might change the name as it's getting closer. And honestly, personally, I hope they do. But regardless, this game looks rad. And I'm excited. All right, Chris Davis, now you can go.
Okay. Well, that was gonna be half of my 4-player.
I know.
But I'm glad you.
As they were showing this trailer at the Annapurna thing, I'm watching the same presentation that Chris Davis is watching as it's happening, and I'm watching on my phone, and a Discord notification pops up, like it just says, at Nick, with no details, and I'm like, yes, Chris Davis, I know. I'm watching it.
I was just trying to do you a service, Nick. Trying to be that good friend.
I'm the
By
host
just
I'm a host of a
notifying him.
popular video game podcast. I know what shit's going down when it's happening.
What's semi-popular video game podcast?
Semi-popular. All right.
My final thought is in regards to something that's video game more adjacent than actual video game related, but there are implications. So we all know about the Warner Brothers Discovery deal that's been going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it appears that shit has hit the fan, and the shit is going to go into overdrive tomorrow during their investor call. But it looks like HBO Max, all the scripted content is getting canceled. They're laying off 70.
What exactly constitutes HBO Max scripted content? Because I didn't know they were considering that any different than HBO scripted content.
They are. It's when it first came out, they were two different like channels, and so but all the new stuff was branded with HBO Max branding. So like basically what Chris is saying is that anything that was existing before HBO Max and is still ongoing is not being canceled, but potentially scripted stuff after that is.
Okay, wait a second. I have an important question. The Last of Us show, that's HBO, right?
I believe that's HBO, not HBO.
Yes,
Max.
that is safe.
What is HBO Max shows? What are some of those shows?
Like Hacks, that one about the Lovecraft Country, that's already been canceled though.
Yeah.
There's a couple ones that were actually
Euphoria? Is Euphoria HBO Max?
No, Euphoria is HBO.
Yeah.
Okay.
HBO.
I mean,
honestly, any of the big stuff like Euphoria, Game of Thrones, Last of Us, that's all HBO proper.
Right.
Basically, yeah. But they're laying off. They're going to lay off 70% of their staff working on all those shows. And they're canceling movies. They've canceled the basically finished and just in editing Batgirl film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
They're supposedly going to push back the release of the Shazam and Aquaman sequels.
Oh fuck! Peacemaker was Max.
Yes, Peacemaker was Max.
James Gunn's already said that season 2 is not affected by this.
Okay.
Harley Quinn is also Max, and so is Raised by Wolves.
Raised by Wolves was already canceled.
Yeah.
Like
people like that Harley Quinn show though.
It's very good.
They do.
Yeah.
That's not safe? We don't know if that's safe or not yet.
It's gotten 3 seasons at this point. They might already be in contract for a 4th, but I wouldn't be certain about anything beyond that.
Yeah. That Dune show they were going to make, I think, was Max.
Yeah. All of that's going to be rolled into.
They're saying in chat that it's not. I don't know. Who the fuck knows?
All the content's going to be rolled into a new platform stream that's not named HBO or Discovery. It's something new entirely, which they'll probably reveal tomorrow. They haven't said anything about the Flash movie, but video game related, like, the fuck does this mean for Monolith and NetherRealm and the other developers that they have under their wings? Like,
it's hard to say. I mean, as of right now, the impact of this seems mostly focused on movies and television.
Yeah, and in fact, most of the rumors seem to be just movie related, not television related. So when they say they're going to cancel HBO Max originals, those were HBO Max original movies and exclusive movies. So I think most of the shows are actually like fairly safe.
That Batgirl thing is especially crazy though, considering it was done. Like,
bizarre, right?
And the directors apparently found out while they were at one of them was getting married. Like he's literally getting married, and then like the same day, at the ceremony, finds out that the movie he just finished making, it was in post production.
I thought someone interrupted when they just. If anyone else has anything they should say before they. He's not getting his movie. Oh, wedding's off. Wedding's off.
Girl.
That's how I was paying for the ceremony.
That's how I was paying for my wife.
It's the whole
Jesus.
situation. Whole situation's real fucked up.
Yeah, it's
But yeah, I
really
guess we'll
fucked.
find out tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right. Was that all you want to say about that? Or
Unfortunately, yeah.
all right, Nolan.
Also, why the
guess
fuck are we getting
home.
a second Joker movie? Fuck that shit.
Oh, eh,
Mm.
eh, eh.
To each their own. All right, my 4-player final countdown starts now. I'm not been playing a whole lot of new stuff. I've been playing a lot of older stuff. I've been playing. I have been playing some more Timberborn, but I've been playing a lot of The Binding of Isaac. Kind of got back into that again. Really good game. I'm constantly
wagon.
encountering. I'm encountering new things every single time I play that. Still,
Yeah.
it's like one of those things where with over 1,000, more items in the game that completely change and their synergies and stuff. It's just so unique every time. And I finally ended a 17 run loss streak. With 3 wins in a row, so that was fun.
Nice.
The other one that's coming out next week, so it'll actually be the day after the podcast, is Cult of the Lamb. I'm pretty excited for that. Been hearing some good things, and I'm excited to play it. But that's really it from me. Yep.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, that'll do it. That's our show tonight. Thank you so much, Ed. Thank you so much for being here, as always. Always a pleasure. Let's have you back here sooner rather than later. Always enjoy talking about video games with you. And tune in next week for our next top 3. We'll announce the topic here soon. I think
Top 3
it's probably-
games Chris Davis should play.
Yeah, that's Ed's vote. Chris Davis has already said that Chris Davis has already said concretely he will not be here next week for the podcast. So we should
It makes it better.
It makes it. Oh my god, this is
Christ.
perfect. All right, anyways, thank you so much for listening, guys. 4playernetwork.com is where you can find all of our episodes and our videos and all that stuff. Also, if you want to support us financially, please go to patreon.com/4player for early access to the shows every week. And again, if you want to ask a question for a future episode for next week, or actually in this case it'll be 2 weeks from now, since we're doing a top 3 next week, be sure to join us in Discord at discord.gg/4player. You can get your questions in for the show in the submit a question channel. You can also leave us comments on 4playernetwork.com for the episode, and I will be keeping a close eye on YouTube comments. So if you're watching this on YouTube and you have something you want to say, drop a comment down below and we'll react to it on the next episode. So that's it for this week, guys. Thanks so much. Be good to each other, hang out, play video games, and we'll see you next week. Good night.
Bye, y'all. Bye.
Like,
Hi, I'm still here.
Look at that.
proud of you, Brad.